a historical session, first session in the Union Territory under Union Territory because Jammu Kashmir was a state for 70 years and then it was downgraded into a Union Territory. And then after a long gap of 7 years, we are having assembly back and members back and the governor's address back in Jammu and Kashmir.
Absolutely. And Nazir, another challenge that the Chief Minister is facing at the moment and the government is facing there at the moment is the recent terror attacks that have taken place. Would there be a discussion over the same in the Assembly as well?
Well, there could be, discussion, but the fact is that the law and order is not the domain of the elected government. Since the Jammu and Kashmir is a union territory, law and order, police and security comes under the Lieutenant Governor and the central government Union Home Ministry. Till the time Jammu and Kashmir remains a union territory, there will be a sort of a dual control administration be run by the elected government, while as the security will be run by the this lieutenant governor and central government. And there are fears that this may create a friction and the adversaries can take advantage of this situation. And we have seen series of attacks of the formation of the government here. Yesterday itself, the first such horrible incident where innocent people have to bear the brunt of this terror attack, when around a dozen people were injured after a busy marketplace was attacked with a grenade yesterday in Srinagar on a Sunday market. So they are challenged. Police actually cannot, operate or the function in isolation. There has to be not just the synergy; it has to be part of the local governance milieu. That's what everybody is saying, and everybody is talking about. That look, and Umar Abdullah, after meeting Prime Minister and the Home Minister, has said that the Union Territory system would be very temporary. Statehood will be restored very, very soon. That's what is expected. Many believe that after Maharashtra election, Center may start the process of restoration of Jammu and Kashmir state, and maybe in the winter session there could be a bill in the parliament for the restoration of Jammu and Kashmir state.
All right, Nazir Masoodi, thank you very much for getting us the latest from Srinagar. And it is the last day of withdrawal of nominations in Maharashtra, and both the Mahayuti Alliance as well as the Mahavikas Aghadi Alliance camps are negotiating to convince the rebel candidates in order to withdraw from the fray. Now, sources in both the camps say that many dissenters, they have decided to withdraw, though many are still digging in and discussions could continue till the last minute. There are more than 50 rebels in both the alliances. In Mahayuti, top netas including the Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis and the Chief Minister Eknath Shinde, they held several meetings with the rebels. The Mahavikas Aghadi leaders, they have also been holding discussions and have ruled out the possibility of any friendly fight. And my colleague Anuj Raite joins us to get us more on this. Anuj, what could be the likely outcome of this entire rebel candidates situation for both the Mahavikas Aghadi as well as the Mahayuti Alliance, because this is the last day that we are talking about?
You see, rebel candidates have always been a very integral part of election process here in Maharashtra in every election. But this time around, it becomes so important because of the constrained space for a lot of party loyalists who have not been able to given tickets by the party high command due to certain equation problems. And their position in the party and them staying in the party becomes more important for, say, parties like Bharatiya Janata Party or even Shiv Sena, Shinde faction, or all the other parties for that matter, because the amount of vote share and vote count that they bring to that particular party. Now, given the fact that so many people are interested to fight independent, especially from Mahayuti, one thing becomes clear is that many of them have pledged that they will eventually support the Mahayuti alliance, but then they don't really want to take any sort of chance. Also, it affects the member or the candidate who is standing under the symbol of the Bharatiya Janata Party. A very, very good example of this will be the Borivali constituency here in Mumbai, where it is considered to be a bastion of the Bharatiya Janata Party, and that is the place where Bharatiya Janata Party has not lost since several decades. But this time around, a two-time MP is fighting as an independent candidate against official candidate of the Bharatiya Janata Party. So even he might, after elections, he might still extend his support to the Bharatiya Janata Party, but then it might turn out to be a loss for the BJP symbol, and that really affects the entire, the entire higher official morale here in the state. Besides that, a lot of party workers also get affected, which is why these debates are becoming so important. On one hand, there is, Mahavikas Aghadi, who had made it very clear that they wouldn't be having any sort of friendly fights. Mahayuti is still trying to have last-minute discussions with independents across the state, be it Vidarbha, be it Marathwada, Western Maharashtra, Northern Maharashtra, and mostly in Mumbai. While all of these independent debate is going on one side, we also have the Manoj Jarange factor resurfacing. Yesterday, he took a press conference and announced that he will be fighting candidates from those constituencies where the winnability will be high, and today also he will be naming those close to 11 constituencies where he will be fighting his candidates, just to make sure that those a few candidates who are being fielded by certain parties, their vote share is affected. So while on one hand for Mahavikas Aghadi and Mahayuti, they have to deal with their primary opponents, that is the opposition alliance, they also have to deal with independents who might eat up their vote share, and also the Manoj Jarange factor, which played a very crucial role in determining the dynamics of the state, or especially of places like Marathwada, which is a very important part of the Marathi demographic here in the state during the elections in the month of May and June. But talking specifically about independent candidates and how their results will turn out, we see that the deadline closes at around 3 or 4 p.m. today afternoon, and till then we are expecting debates and discussions to go on. We saw Sharad Pawar convince a lot of independent candidates in the Western Maharashtra belt. We saw Devendra Fadnavis, who was on ground a couple of days ago and convincing every single senior candidate from the Bharatiya Janata Party who is willing to fight independent. We also saw Eknath Shinde make a very important statement, yesterday when he was campaigning in Kurla for a Mahayuti candidate, for an independent candidate who is willing to fight from Mumbai. So a couple of things. Firstly, they have to put in all their energy and resources to convince the person to withdraw their forms as an independent candidate and let their manpower be behind the party rather than it being behind the individual. And secondly, they also have to promise several positions, be it MLCs or heads of certain organizations. Now, how much of it will eventually fructify is the question that we can only get an answer to after the election is done. But the fact that so many of the candidates, are expected to withdraw today is a big gamble, because many of them may not eventually turn out to withdraw their candidature. Again, another example is in Nashik, where Shiv Sena Shinde faction sent AB forms via helicopters, for their own candidates against the NCP Ajit Pawar faction, who were the official representatives or the official candidates from that particular region. But since last couple of days, even those Shiv Sena candidates have been unreachable. So how many of the candidates who are willing to fight independent are actually coming back into the party fold? And even if they do, will the workers actually work under the broader umbrella of the party, or will they still keep their individual interests over?
Right. Things are only getting interesting as we head closer to the crucial assembly elections in Maharashtra. Meanwhile, time for a very short break. More news and updates on the other side.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 50 Pro, world's first AI-powered pro-grade camera.
Air pollution worsens in Delhi NCR as well as in Mumbai. Air quality severely in severe category in parts of Delhi, while Mumbai grapples with poor quality air. Parties in Maharashtra race to make rebels stand down as deadline to withdraw nominations expires today. Made in Jammu and Kashmir, Union Territory Assembly session today. All eyes on whether Omar Abdullah will push for a resolution seeking full statehood. And the race for the White House is heating up. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris go through several swing states in the last mile of their campaign. Polls suggest the race is still exceptionally close.
As the world watches with bated breath, the contest that will impact the world.
Exclusive insights, expert analysis, and ground zero updates as history unfolds.
We are not a vessel for the schemes of wannabe dictators. I'm the opposite of a Nazi.
The election that will have worldwide ramifications.
Immigration is far more than just a political talking point.
NDTV World brings you the best worldly insight from the US and across the world.
This is not just an election, it's a moment that will define a nation and the world, and we will be present.
Your view to the world. NDTV World.
New day, new show, a new experience.
Start your day with the news, not views.
We bring you stories that matter
And impact your life.
News that informs and keeps you ahead.
from Maximum City, Mumbai,
To the seat of power, Delhi.
NDTV brings you the best breakfast show.
breakfast news on NDTV, 8 a.m. every day.
NDTV proudly upholds its legacy of trust and credibility. According to the prestigious Reuters Institute's Digital News Report 2024, NDTV is the top-most news platform in the country. Number one in both online and offline reach in India. Beating all its competition, NDTV stands for trust.
I've been reporting.
Welcome back. Two senior forest officials of Madhya Pradesh have been suspended for alleged negligence in their duties after the death of 10 elephants at the Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve. Assistant Forest Conservator Fateh Singh Ninama and Field Director Gaurav Chaudhary. They were removed from their posts due to failures in leadership and vigilance. The suspensions come after several allegations including delayed response times and a lack of oversight to critical incidents involving elephant welfare in the reserve. Now, acknowledging the severity of the situation, the Chief Minister expressed his concerns over the recent deaths in Umaria district, describing this incident as both tragic and preventable.
Finally, the government has cracked the whip, and Chief Minister Dr. Mohan Yadav on Sunday evening has said that the two officials of the Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve will be suspended. Gaurav Chaudhary, an IFS officer of 2010 batch, he is the director of Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve, as well as Fateh Singh Ninama, he is the in charge ACF. The officials have said that Gaurav Chaudhary was on leave, but despite the senior officials calling him after the death of 10 elephants there in Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve, he never bothered to call back or responded to the calls. And Fateh Singh Ninama, despite knowing the death of 10 elephants there, just assigned everything to his junior officers. He was not proactive. So these are the charges on these two officials of the Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve. But in 2022 also, one tusker died under mysterious circumstances there, and his carcass was burned, and after that an inquiry was conducted, and last year two forest guard and one official of the Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve was suspended. And Fateh Singh Ninama was the officer who was assigned to investigate these officials from the Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve. And after the death of these 10 elephants, the government has said that a state level elephant task force will be formed, and apart from that, solar fencing will be done to avoid man-elephant conflict in the Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve area. And the government has also said that discussions are on with the union government to seek support for forest management strategies. And the Chief Minister has also said that the compensation amount will be increased from 8 lakh to 25 lakh rupees. So these are the important steps which Madhya Pradesh government has announced yesterday after the high level inquiry, but still the Visra and the forensic reports are awaited. And after that, because as of now the government has said that they have not found any substance in the claim that these elephants have consumed pesticides, or they have died because of poisonous kodo kutki lying there. So everybody is waiting for the forensic report, and that can perhaps help in finding what caused the death of these 10 elephants in the Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve.
शासन ने पूरी गंभीरता के साथ इसमें अपने वन मंत्री श्रीमान दिलीप अहिरवार जी और वरिष्ठ अधिकारियों को भेजा था। उनसे प्रारंभिक जो रिपोर्ट प्राप्त हुई है उसमें अभी तक की जानकारी में कोई अलग से कीटनाशक या कोई ऐसी घटना जिसमें कोई दूसरा पक्ष इन्वॉल्व हो अभी तक तो नहीं आई है, लेकिन पोस्टमार्टम की रिपोर्ट अब अभी 2-3 दिन में आना बाकी है। इतनी बड़ी घटना होने के बावजूद भी फील्ड डायरेक्टर छुट्टी से वापस से न आना, उसकी लापरवाही मानी गई, इसलिए फील्ड डायरेक्टर को हमने सस्पेंड किया है। साथ ही साथ प्रभारी SCF फतेह सिंह निनामा को भी इस लापरवाही में सस्पेंड किया है।
And multiple incidents of attacks by Khalistanis have been reported in Canada. Videos have emerged from both Brampton and Surrey. The Indian High Commission has posted their reaction just a short while back, saying that anti-India elements targeted Indian consular camps between November 2nd and 3rd. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has condemned these attacks. In the meanwhile, Indian origin Canadian MP Chandra Arya has posted videos from Brampton and alleged that the incident shows that Khalistanis have infiltrated law and order enforcement agencies in Canada. And my colleague Mohammad Ghazali joins us to get us more on this. Ghazali, amid the severed ties between Canada and India, can we expect Canada to work with India in order to address this situation right now?
See, if we go by the trend as how the India-Canada relations have taken a hit and what is happening today, the visuals suggest that perhaps the devotees were attacked in front of the law enforcement agencies there. The police personnel were there, and despite that, the protesters or the Khalistani elements attacked the Hindu devotees inside the temple, outside the temple, and not just at one location. In Brampton, the protest was happening. We are being told that perhaps the Indian High Commission there holds consulate services in the temples, in the gurdwaras, to ensure that all those Indians who are residing there, they can, for their pension services, to renew their applications, to renew the services back in India for some NRIs. These services are extended, and temples and gurdwaras become a community center where these services can be carried out with the coordination of the temple authorities. But in this particular case, perhaps there was this writing on the wall that whenever the Indian consular services or people from the diplomatic community will come into the temple or gurdwara, in the backdrop of what is happening between India and Canada, these elements will try to take or hijack this entire event. And this has certainly happened, that despite court's order to ensure that there should be security outside the gurdwaras or outside the temples where these consular services are being organized, despite that court order, the Khalistani elements managed to create violence there. And they also got into an ugly spat with the devotees there. And the way India-Canada relations have taken a hit in the last 1 month, it doesn't look so likely that perhaps you'll see any swift action in some time. But the Canadian Prime Minister has taken on the social media. Many politicians from opposition parties in Canada have also condemned the violent act. And this is only spiraling. In the last 1 year, there have been multiple such incidents of protest, which turns ugly. And then common Indians or Indian citizens or NRIs who are staying there, they take the brunt. And this is exactly what has happened today. It will have to be seen whether the Canadian authorities deal this with iron hand and ensure that this doesn't repeat in any other region in the country. But as of now, the situation is tense over there. And anywhere, the Indian High Commission in Canada, which conducts these consular services in this season, in this particular days, doesn't look that it will be very safe and smooth, considering the fact that how these Khalistani elements are protesting outside gurdwaras.
Right. Mohammad Ghazali, thank you very much for getting us all the latest from there. The United States will on Tuesday witness one of the closest presidential elections in decades, with Donald Trump and Kamala Harris making last-ditch efforts in order to sway the remaining undecided voters in key battleground states. Now, more than 75 million Americans have already cast their votes as of Sunday, as the two presidential candidates are crisscrossing politically pivotal battleground states, making closing arguments to drum up support, and the race is down to the wire, with more states functionally tied in polls at this point than in any comparable election. Donald Trump at a rally said that he shouldn't have left the White House in the first place, bringing back apprehensions that he may not accept the outcome if he loses the race. While Kamala Harris says that we have momentum and she sees a nation determined to turn the page on hate and division and chart a new way forward.
So Michigan, 2 days to go. In one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime, and we have momentum. It is on our side. Can you feel it? And we have the momentum because our campaign is tapping into the ambitions, the aspirations, and the dreams of the American people. Because we are optimistic and excited about what we can do together.
You are great sports fans, and I hope you're having a fantastic time. We're 2 days away from the most important election in the history of our country. We've got to save our country, and it needs saving. It's in very bad shape. The worst economic numbers in generations were just announced 2 days ago. We're losing jobs, we're losing everything, including viability. We're going to end up in a depression based on what's been happening. We've never seen anything like it, at least for the last 40 years. We have to straighten out our country, we have to close our borders, we have to lower our taxes, we have to get rid of inflation, and we're going to do it. Just remember, Kamala and her friends broke it. I'll fix it. Most important election in the history of our country. Go and vote.
Now, as both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris hit the last mile of the campaign, polls suggest that this is a very tight race between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. A New York Times poll showed a very close fight. It gives Harris the lead in swing states. Harris's lead is by a slim margin against Donald Trump, according to the New York Times poll. And with less than 48 hours to go for U.S. elections, it's now door-to-door campaigning to ensure all voters come out to vote. And this matters most in Pennsylvania, a swing state that holds the key to the White House. NDTV's Gauri Dwivedi was at a neighborhood in Philadelphia with Indian Americans, understanding the impact of these elections. The biggest Indian American group in the U.S. canvassing for Kamala Harris. This report shows that canvassing.
It's pretty much the last leg of the U.S. election, and what it's now come down to is door-to-door campaigning. We are here with one of the key organizations that's behind the Democrat camp, the Indian American Impact, one of the largest, most significant organizations backing the Democrat Party. And they're out here in one of the suburbs here to really go ahead and do the door-to-door campaigning. I have with me management and some of the volunteers to talk more about the last leg of the campaigning, what the messaging is, and what you hope to achieve. First of all, thank you so much, sir, for speaking to NDTV.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
I've been seeing you do a lot of this door-to-door campaigning and door-to-door knocking. You're trying to reach out to as many voters. The exercise here is to ensure that the Democrat voters come to the polling booth. Is that the entire exercise?
Absolutely right. You know, we are in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania is a swing state, it's a critical state for the Democrats, for the vice president to win. And many people would say the way Pennsylvania goes, so goes the election on Tuesday. What we are focused on is on our community. Our community is large, is grown substantially over the last few years. If you look at the swing states, which is where we are focused on, we have several 100,000 votes in our community. And largely they vote Democratic, 60–70% are Democratic. And these states, by the way, are won by 10,000 votes, 20,000 votes.
So every vote counts.
Every vote counts. And the key thing for our community is to go and vote. If they're not voted already, they should, or definitely go out and vote on Tuesday, because we will be the margin of victory in this election.
Great. There's one thing I want to ask the two volunteers, and you're doing this, knocking doors and ensuring that every vote matters. But out of curiosity, what happens if you, let's say, get a response that is opposite of what you were expecting? How do you ensure that you deliver the message, but at the same time, nothing untoward, nothing unpleasant really happens?
Yeah, so I think the importance of door knocking and the focus of the Harris campaign on door knocking is reflective of her campaign's values. It's about the people. And so the reason that in Pennsylvania, for example, yesterday, 2,000 doors were being knocked across the state for Harris a minute, every single minute, it's because those conversations that we're having with people still on the fence about whether to sit on the couch or go vote, or whether Harris or Trump are what's going to decide this election. And so, you know, when we meet someone at the door who is undecided about either the candidates or whether to vote at all, I think what we're finding is that a lot of people want to be heard. And so it's about leading with empathy, asking what issues they care about, and relating the Harris Walls agenda back to that, and also making it local, right? Everybody cares about what's happening in their kids' schools, with their roads and bridges. So talking about the issues that matter to them and how Kamala Harris is the best to move those forward is what we're finding to be effective.
Now, as the race to the White House heats up, how does Russia and China view the U.S. elections? Now, Russian media has framed these elections as an end to the American dream. Harris's win could mean continuation of Russia's sanctions, is what we understand, and Harris likely to continue to provide military aid to Ukraine. Could a Trump win signal a return to isolationism? Trump proposes that 60% tariff will be levied on goods from China. Could the poll outcome open doors for US-China dialogue? Here's a report.
In Russia, the atmosphere is charged with anticipation. The Kremlin sees the US election as a golden opportunity, an opportunity to exploit divisions and create chaos. State media, echoing the voices of political leaders, are framing this election as a dramatic saga of the declining American dream. There is a massive surge in misinformation campaigns aimed at manipulating public opinion. Russia's strategy to fan the flames of discord, fostering division among voters, and undermining trust in the electoral process. A Harris election could mean a continuation of fierce sanctions and military aid to Ukraine, while a return of Trump might signal a return to isolationism, a scenario Moscow might eagerly welcome. Across the Pacific, China also watches with keen interest. The stakes are high as they analyze the shifting political landscape. Beijing is cautious, knowing that American politics could dramatically impact their own aspirations. China fears a hardline US administration likely to intensify trade wars and military presence in the Asia-Pacific. Yet, there's also hope that a more moderate leader could open the doors for dialogue and cooperation. Strategic calculations are underway as Chinese officials weigh the potential outcomes. Every candidate's stance on technology, security, and global dominance is under scrutiny. As the election draws near, both Russia and China are not just observers. They are players in a geopolitical chess game. Misinformation, cyber operations, and diplomatic maneuvers will escalate as they seek to shape the narrative. In this pivotal moment, the 2024 US election isn't just about American democracy. It's a global stage where the interests of Russia and China collide. Arjun Samar Mahindran for NDTV World.
Now, anger and frustration erupted in Spain on Sunday as King Philippe VI arrived in the town of Paiporta to survey the damage from historic flash floods that killed more than 200 people. The King and Queen of Spain, they were pelted with mud and other objects by angry protesters during a visit to flood-hit Valencia. The shouts of murderer and shame were directed at the royal couple, Spain's Prime Minister and other leaders as they walked through the town of Paiporta, one of the worst affected in the region, with mud on their faces and clothes. King Philippe and Queen Letizia, they were later seen consoling members of the crowd. More than 200 people, remember, were killed in the floods, the worst in Spain for decades. And in the aftermath of India's loss to New Zealand in the third test of the three-match series, India's dreams now of making it to the World Test Championship final were dented after New Zealand handed them a historic 0-3 series whitewash at home. It was their first ever series loss in such a manner on home soil, as India lost the third test by 25 runs at the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. India slipped to second place in the World Test Championship standings with 58.33 percentage points, trailing Australia's 62.50 percentage points. India had dominated the World Test Championship standings for the most of the 2024-25 cycle, but their recent 3 consecutive losses have cost them their top spot.
It is important, for me to understand that, life is not about just highs, there can be lows as well, which I've seen a lot through my career. So, but definitely, something like this will be a very low point in my career, having lost, 3 games at home. And yep, I fully take the responsibility of that, as a captain and as a leader as well. I have not been at the best of my abilities right from the start of the series. And yeah, with the bat as well, I've not been good enough.
We really wouldn't call it a blip in their performance. I would call it a reality check for Team India, because it hasn't happened suddenly. This really is the result of Team India not really concentrating on the longer format of the game, which is Test cricket. There has been a lot of focus on the slam bang format of the game, which is T20, and all the techniques, all the temperament were adjusted towards playing the white ball cricket. Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, perhaps the last product of, one would say, grinding in longer format of the game. But once the Cheteshwar Pujaras and the Ajinkya Rahanes left the middle order of the Indian team, there hasn't been a so-called glue, an anchor in the Indian team. And as a result, you see when wickets started falling, they tumbled. It was almost like a procession. There wasn't a number 3 or a number 4 blocking out the opposition. It is more to do with strategy. It's more to do with how Indian team has shaped up on the basis of white ball cricket over the last few years. Yes, they have performed magnificently on home soil and abroad. 18 straight series wins did not come in one day. It came over a 12-year period. But now with what has happened against New Zealand, the team and the management have to go back to the drawing board and see where they need to fix this malice.
Now, after releasing the BJP's manifesto for Jharkhand Assembly elections, Union Home Minister Amit Shah has said that the BJP stands out from all other parties, adding that the upcoming elections in the state is not just an election to change the government, but an election to ensure the future of Jharkhand. Additionally, the Union Home Minister asserted that during the Jharkhand Chief Minister Hemant Soren's government, the tribals of the state, they are not safe. Remember, elections for the 81 seats in the Jharkhand Assembly will be conducted in 2 phases on November 13th and November 20th, with the counting of votes scheduled for November 23rd. Here's a report. Union Home Minister Amit Shah releasing BJP's much-awaited manifesto for Jharkhand, with a verbal duel erupting between Shah and Chief Minister Hemant Soren. Soren took the battle across the border to Bangladesh, accusing the BJP of sheltering ex-Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina.
घुसपैठियों को आपने पनाह दी, घुसपैठियों में आपको अपनी वोट बैंक दिखाई पड़ती। मैं आज झारखंड की जनता को कहना चाहता हूं, इस तुष्टीकरण की राजनीति को बंद कर सारे घुसपैठियों को चुन कर भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार झारखंड के बाहर निकालेगी।
मैं ये जानना चाहता हूं कि बांग्लादेश के साथ अंदर कोई आप लोग का कोई समझौता है क्या? और आज बांग्लादेश के पूर्व प्रधानमंत्री को आपने यहाँ हेलीकॉप्टर उतारने कैसे दिया और किस आधार पर यहाँ पर आपने उसको शरण दे रखा है, हमको ये बता दीजिए। और बांग्लादेश से घुसपैठ करने वाला भारतीय जनता पार्टी शासित राज्यों से घुस के आता है।
BJP's focus remains on women and tribals. Amit Shah promised that if elected, the BJP would provide 2,100 rupees per month to every woman of Jharkhand under the Gogo Didi scheme to counter JMM's ambitious Maiya Samman Yojana, under which they get 1,000 rupees per month. Free LPG gas cylinders for women on Diwali and Raksha Bandhan festivals, and 5 lakh employment opportunities to the youths of the state.
देखिए, ये जो मैनिफेस्टो है ना, उस पर कोई भरोसा इसलिए नहीं करेगा, ना तो झारखंड का विकास इधर हुआ, ना रांची का विकास हुआ। आप यहाँ पे आपने देखा कि किस तरह से ये अभी तो गोगो योजना की बात वो लोग कर रहे हैं, लेकिन भाजपा के कार्यकाल में महिलाओं की तस्करी अपने चरम पर थी।
But the real trump card was promise of uniform civil code in Jharkhand if BJP was voted to power in Jharkhand. Catering to the fear of tribal voters who are decisive in Jharkhand, Amit Shah clarified that UCC would not touch upon tribal population under any circumstances, and the Congress was quick to hit back.
हेमंत बाबू, झारखंड में यूसीसी जरूर आएगा, मगर यूसीसी से आदिवासियों को पूर्णतया हम बाहर रखेंगे। कोई आदिवासी के अधिकार और कानून को यूसीसी से हम नहीं छेड़ेंगे।
वो अगर गृह मंत्री के तौर पे बोल रहे हैं तो गलत बात है, अगर भारतीय जनता पार्टी के नेता के तौर पे बोल रहे हैं तो सही बात है। झूठ बोलने की आदत है। आप क्यों बोल रहे हैं कि यूसीसी में आदिवासियों को शामिल नहीं किया जाएगा? क्योंकि आपने आदिवासियों को यूसीसी में शामिल किया है।
Talking about the tribal issues, and the UCC happens to be their trump card. Tribals have nothing to fear. They don't come under the purview of UCC, and BJP will ensure that those illegal migrants are chased away from Jharkhand if they are voted to power there.
With poll fever rising in Jharkhand after Diwali and Chhath festivities die down, it is UCC that is likely to dominate the election debate in Jharkhand, with both sides clearly divided over it. With Harivansh and Prabhakar Kumar in Ranchi, NDTV Bureau Report. And the US presidential elections aren't as simple as they might initially appear. Yes, we are talking about the Electoral College system. When Americans cast their votes for president, they're not voting directly for a candidate. Instead, they're choosing electors in a system known as the Electoral College. Here's all you need to know.
Established in 1787, the Founding Fathers created the Electoral College as a compromise between electing the president by a vote in Congress and by popular vote. In the college, each state has a set number of electors based on its congressional representation, senators, and House members. There are 538 electors total. Most states allocate all their electoral votes to the candidate who wins the majority of the popular vote in that state. Maine and Nebraska are the only exceptions with their proportional allocation. A candidate needs a majority of at least 270 electoral votes to claim the presidency. It is important to note that the college is not free of controversies. Candidates can win the presidency without winning the popular vote. We have seen this in the elections of 1824, 1876, 1888, 2000, and as recent as 2016 when Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton despite securing less votes. This sparks debates about fairness and representation. Campaigns focus intensely on a handful of swing states where the outcome is uncertain, often leaving out voters in states deemed safe for one party. While some advocate for abolishing the Electoral College in favor of a direct popular vote, arguing it would enhance democratic legitimacy, supporters claim it protects smaller states' interests and ensures a broader national campaign. So, what's the bottom line? The Electoral College is a fascinating blend of historical compromise and modern contention. As elections loom, the debate rages on. Is it a cornerstone of democracy or an outdated relic? Buckle up, the story is far from over. Bureau Report for NDTV World.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 50 Pro, world's first AI-powered pro-grade camera.
Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best journalism and storytelling on your smartphone or tablet. The NDTV app. News that matters to you.
Hello and welcome to India Sense, where I speak with global opinion makers.
The United States has made a strategic decision over the last 20 years to move closer to India.
So a $7 trillion economy seems a perfectly conceivable number.
If you want to be a national party, it's that you sort of accept the way the world is rather than want to endlessly hark back to how it was.
Modi is promoting the digitization of the economy, which is accelerating growth in the country.
We reached an agreement on patrolling. We have gone back to where the situation was in 2020, and we can say with that the disengagement process with China, you can say, has been completed. The understanding, to my knowledge, is that we will be able to do the patrolling which we were doing in 2020.
I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
It was the grand launch of NDTV World by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. NDTV World, as he laid out his vision for the India century at the NDTV World Summit.
ऐसी सदी जिसमें भारत के प्रयासों से दुनिया में स्थिरता आए.
In the presence of those who are shaping our future.
मेरी तरफ से आपको ढेर सारी शुभकामनाएं हैं.
NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
तालियों के साथ हम स्वागत करेंगे आदरणीय मोदी जी का.
छत्रपति शिवाजी महाराज की.
घोषणा आणि जनतेचे पैसे लुटणं.
कट कमिशन आणि करप्शनला आमच्याकडे थारा नाही. त्यांचा परिवारवाद आमचा महाराष्ट्र.
After reports of multiple incidents of attacks in Canada, the Indian High Commission in Canada has now reacted and blamed anti-India elements for the violence outside the consular camp co-organized with the Hindu Sabha Mandir in Brampton. In a statement, the Indian High Commission has said it is deeply disheartening to see such disruptions being allowed for routine consular work being organized by our consulates with the fullest cooperation of local co-organizers. In Jammu and Kashmir, the Assembly session will kickstart amid the terror surge. The first session of the newly elected Jammu and Kashmir Assembly post-Article 370 abrogation will be held from today. Both the ruling National Conference-led alliance and opposition BJP have formulated their strategies for the 5-day session, and it remains to be seen whether NC would move a resolution on Article 370 in the House as promised by the party before coming to power. India's biggest metros breathe toxic air. With the winters approaching, a thin layer of smog engulfed the national capital as the air quality index in Delhi remained to be in the very poor category. While in coastal Mumbai too, the air quality has deteriorated after Diwali. It's currently in the poor category. Today is the last date for withdrawing poll nominations in Maharashtra. All the parties in the state have been involved in hectic parleys with rebel candidates over the weekend in an attempt to get them to stand down and avoid any division of votes. And with the United States presidential election just a day away on the 5th of November, the race between Democratic candidate Kamala Harris and Republican Donald Trump remains highly competitive. The contest has heightened as both candidates crisscross critical battleground states, including Arizona, Georgia, and Pennsylvania, with early voting underway. Well, a big development we're tracking ahead of the Maharashtra polls. Maratha quota activist Manoj Patil has withdrawn from the upcoming Maharashtra Legislative Assembly polls. Earlier, Mr. Patil had announced that he will field Maratha candidates for the Assembly polls in constituencies where the community has a strong presence. However, now he has backed off. Manoj Patil has made a U-turn on his decision to contest the upcoming polls in Maharashtra. Whether there's more than meets the eye, well, to find out, we will have Radhika Ramaswamy joining us. In fact, she's with us already. Radhika, Manoj Patil has now made a U-turn on his decision to contest the upcoming polls. Is there more to this than meets the eye? Do we know why he has backed off?
Yes, looks like there is more than that meets the eye, because this was a bit of a surprise as far as Maharashtra Assembly polls are concerned, because until yesterday he had spoken about how he is deciding to field about 10 to 15 candidates, and post which there will be additional list of another dozen candidates. So almost 25 candidates he was supposed to field across Maharashtra, across Marathwada, Western Maharashtra regions. He was hell-bent on that. He had been talking about how he will be fielding candidates along with several other community leaders as well. He had held discussions with Dalit and Muslim leaders over the last few days, and therefore deciding to be a part of Maharashtra polls. But now, in just a couple of hours, in just a matter of few hours, he's taken a big U-turn, saying that he will not contest the assembly polls. And the reasoning he's given is that one cannot contest polls based on the strength of just one caste or one community. This is what he said in that particular press briefing that he held just half an hour back. In fact, he said that he held multiple rounds of meetings. There was a meeting that went on till about 3 a.m. today. He held meetings with Dalit as well as Muslim leaders and decided that he will not contest the polls. In fact, he had backed several candidates as well. He had announced a few names as well. All of them were to contest as independents, but very firmly backed by Manoj Patil, the face of Maratha agitation in Maharashtra. This would have obviously dented prospects as far as Mahayuti is concerned, because they were all set to sort of go against the current regime, especially considering the fact that they had been fighting for reservation over the last several months. This is also, of course, him withdrawing could, in a way, be advantage MV as well, as it could not, it would not lead to splitting of votes. And to quote Jarange Patil post the press conference, what he said that was that we were discussing till 3:30. We were going to field Dalit and Muslim candidates in the election along with our allies, but it is not possible to contest and win elections with the strength, on the strength of just one caste. In fact, also going on to say that we are new in politics. If we field a candidate and if he loses, it will be a shame for the caste. Therefore, I request all the candidates to withdraw from the fray. So yes, he has asked all the candidates to withdraw their nominations today, saying that, you know, he doesn't think that he can win based on the caste equation, and therefore has asked all of the candidates to withdraw from the fray. So this is a big development coming ahead of Maharashtra Assembly polls. In fact, him holding that press conference whereby he is he made that particular announcement. He also said our unity is needed to challenge the established power and defeat those who work against our communities, going on to say that he will fight the fight. He will go on with the battle as far as, fighting or defeating the current regime is concerned, but he will do it his way, but not by contesting the assembly election. So therefore, asking the candidates to sort of withdraw from the fray. So big development coming ahead of Maharashtra assembly polls. Maratha activist Jarange Patil deciding to not fight the polls.
As always, Radhika, thanks so much for joining us with the breaking news information you've accessed. Do stay on with us for the next update as well, as it's the last day of withdrawal of nominations in Maharashtra, and both Mahayuti and the Mahavikas Aghadi camps are negotiating to convince the rebel candidates to withdraw from the fray. In fact, sources in both camps inform us that many dissenters have decided to withdraw, though many are still digging in and discussions could continue till the last minute. There are more than 50 rebels in both alliances. As far as the Mahayuti is concerned, top netas including Devendra Fadnavis and Eknath Shinde held several meetings with rebels. Mahavikas Aghadi leaders have also been holding discussions and have ruled out the possibility of any friendly fights. Radhika Ramaswamy is with us for this update as well. Radhika, a lot of political maneuvering continues, as you and Anuj Raite have been highlighting from ground zero continuously. Many are disgruntled and hell-bent on fighting elections, we hear. Can we expect some sort of clarity today?
Well, there has to be some sort of clarity today, as it is the nomination withdrawal deadline ending day. So we will get to know who are the candidates who will finally be withdrawing from the fray. Of course, there were at least about 80 names that were doing the rounds within both MV as well as Mahayuti camps. Now it has come down to 50, but all the leaders within Mahayuti as well as MV, be it Devendra Fadnavis or Eknath Shinde within Mahayuti or Sharad Pawar from MV, they've been doing a lot of political maneuvering, negotiations and discussions with many of these candidates who are hell-bent on fighting the elections as rebel candidates, as independents. A lot of assurances and offers being given to many of these candidates, saying that they will be given a cabinet position perhaps, they will be nominated as an MLC perhaps, and would be given a senior official position in the days to come. So a lot of political maneuvering happening. Parties maintain that there will not be any friendly fights. If there were any friendly fights, of course, it will backfire as far as these parties are concerned. So they do not want any sort of division or splitting of votes, which is why no friendly fights is something that the parties are very keen on. In Mumbai as well as in many other regions in Maharashtra, many of the candidates have decided to withdraw. Many of them have decided to withdraw from the fray, but there are a few seats within Mumbai where things are slightly more chaotic and confusing. In areas like Mankhurd, where Nawab Malik is fighting. The rebel is not ready to back down, and also in certain other areas, including Borivali, where Gopal Shetty is very, very keen on contesting there as an independent. Of course, his contesting, his fighting as a candidate will not benefit BJP. Certainly, it will lead to division of votes, which is why the BJP top leadership in talks with the people like Gopal Shetty to withdraw from the fray. But things will be clear. End of 3 p.m. 3 p.m. is when the deadline ends. That is when we will get to know who are the candidates who finally decided to withdraw from the fray and who have decided to contest independently. And that is when we'll also get clarity on what the exact seat-sharing formula within MVA and Mahayuti are, and who are the exact candidates that are actually fighting the elections from 288 constituencies.
Well, we'll be keeping a close eye on that 3 p.m. deadline. Thanks so much, Radhika, for joining us with the latest. The other big story we're tracking, after reports of multiple incidents of attacks in Canada and videos purportedly showing Khalistani elements have emerged, the Indian High Commission in Canada has now reacted and blamed anti-India elements for the violence outside the consular camp co-organized with the Hindu Sabha Mandir in Brampton. In fact, in a statement, the Indian High Commission has said it is deeply disheartening to see such disruptions being allowed for routine consular work being organized by our consulates with the fullest cooperation of local organizers. While the Indian High Commission's latest statement makes no explicit reference to any Khalistani elements, the Mayor of Brampton, Patrick Brown, has called for punishment to the greatest extent of law for those held accountable for this violence. I must also inform you that local police have meanwhile declined to assign blame for the reported violence. My colleague Mohammed Ghazali has been tracking the latest developments for us. He joins us live at the moment. Ghazali, what are the latest details you can disclose to our viewers?
See, the police there is assuring that proper action will be taken. The Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has tweeted about it. Opposition parties are also condemning the violence which has taken place with the devotees of the temple. And now we are also gathering reports that a counter protest is being organized outside some gurdwaras. Now, why this is happening? We know that the Indian High Commission in Canada often organizes these events or consular services events in the gurdwaras or in community centers like temples where NRIs and Indians who want their services back in India to be restored or to continue, they register there, they sort of avail these services provided by the consular services. Now, this was a pre-planned event where the Indian consular services were to go to these gurdwaras, inviting people to register for certain services. And this happens every year in this season. And perhaps this time around, it was very, a kind of writing on the wall, considering the fact that how India-Canada relations have taken a hit in the last couple of months. It was perhaps known that these protests will take place, but every time this has happened in the last 1 year, we have seen that these protests outside the High Commission, outside the consulates, outside these gurdwaras turned from ugly to violent and then commotion. And this time around, it has perhaps crossed all the red lines, as per one of the Hindu MPs in Canada of Indian origin, who perhaps said that this is one red line, that now devotees are being attacked outside the temple or within the temple premises as well. Women, children, and even elderly have been attacked. We'll have to see that what kind of action is taken by the Canadian authorities. But India has also strongly registered its protest over the dwindling law and order, the law and order situation over there, and some counter protest by the Indian community is also being organized outside the Gurdwara. So situation is really tense and will have to be taken by the Canadian police.
As always, Ghazali, thanks so much for joining us with the latest information you've accessed. In other news, the first ever session of Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory Assembly is scheduled to begin today amid heightened security arrangements in the wake of a recent spurt in terror attacks as far as the valley is concerned. The agenda includes discussions on key issues, the election of the Assembly Speaker, and strategies for addressing opposition challenges. It will be interesting to see if the ruling National Conference passes any resolution against the August 5, 2019 decisions of the central government that led to the bifurcation of the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir into 2 union territories and the abrogation of Article 370. The Assembly session, as I mentioned, is taking place amid a surge in militant violence in Jammu and Kashmir after the Omar government took charge following the Assembly polls, which was first since the Article 370 abrogation. My colleague Nazir Masoodi has been tracking the latest developments for us. He joins us live at the moment. Nazir, as you've been reporting, this is the first Assembly session after the election. The first business of the newly elected Assembly, we are aware, is to elect the Speaker. But take us through all that will be on the agenda today.
Well, it is a historic session in many ways because first session under the Union Territory after Jammu and Kashmir was downgraded into 2 union territories in 2019, and the first session after a gap of near 7 years. Last time was the Assembly session in Jammu and Kashmir in January 2018, and now after a prolonged central rule, we see here, this Assembly session starting. And let me just show you the view here. And here you can see these legislators are going towards, the house, attending the house here in Srinagar. And today's proceedings will start with the election of the Assembly Speaker, and National Conference leader Abdur Rahim Rathar is expected to be elected as the Assembly Speaker today. It is expected that he may be unanimously elected as the Speaker of the Legislature. And let me talk to there are these concertina wires in between. I'll get one legislator. Altaf Kallu साहब, आपको मुबारक है।
Thank you, sir. Thank you very
इतने मुद्दत बाद असेंबली शुरू हो रही है, तो एजेंडा तो जाहिर सी बात है, पहले इसका स्पीकर का इलेक्शन है, उसके बाद लेफ्टिनेंट गवर्नर का एड्रेस होगा। तो क्या एक्सपेक्टेशंस है लेफ्टिनेंट गवर्नर के एड्रेस से, और उसके बाद जो एनसी का प्लान है रेजोल्यूशन पास करने का?
देखिए, आज तो शॉर्ट बिजनेस है। एक तो हमारा
पहले स्पीकर का इलेक्शन है, तो स्पीकर को इलेक्ट करना है. होपफुली अब्दुल राठर साहब विल बी द स्पीकर ऑफ द असेंबली.
आपकी पार्टी ने डिसाइड किया
ऑलमोस्ट वी आर मेकिंग मूव फॉर अब्दुल राठर एंड उसके बाद गवर्नर एलजी साहब का एड्रेस है. तो आज बिजनेस तो बहुत कम है और शॉर्ट स्पैन ऑफ टाइम है. 5 दिन, 5 days, जिसमें कोई बिल नहीं है, कोई रेजोल्यूशन नहीं है. ओनली एनी मेंबर कैन रेज द इश्यूज व्हाटएवर ही हैज.
अब लास्ट टाइम भी एमएलए थे और 7 साल बाद असेंबली का सेशन हो रहा है. लास्ट सेशन जनवरी 2018 में हुआ था. तो इतनी बड़ी गैप,
बहुत बड़ी गैप है. इससे हमारे लिए भी खुशी का माहौल है और लोगों के लिए तो ऑलरेडी आपने देखा इलेक्शंस में दे हैव टुक पार्ट. बहुत अच्छा हिस्सा लिया लोगों ने और आज हमारे लिए भी खुशी का मौका है कि 6.5 साल के बाद हम असेंबली सेशन में फिर से शुरू हो रहा है और हम इसका हिस्सा है. इंशाल्लाह रहमान उम्मीद यही है कि अच्छा ही होगा.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया अल्ताफ साहब. So here's the legislator. All these legislators have started coming, MLAs, and they will be first electing the Speaker Abdur Rahim Rathar as Senior National Conference Leader, and then there would be Governor's address. But everybody would be watching, will the ruling party pass a resolution which they have said to show its disapproval of the abrogation of Article 370 and downgrading Jammu and Kashmir into 2 union territories that was done in August 2019, and now we have to see whether this session will do that. And since yesterday have been hectic, political activities. National Conference held its legislative party meeting, so did the BJP. They also elected the legislative party leader, Sunil Sharma, and National Conference is, as I said, expected. As we see, Chief Minister has come. Umar Abdullah has just come.
Right.
So Umar Abdullah is just entering the legislative assembly here. So the Chief Minister, it is the first session, and the Chief Minister Umar Abdullah has arrived at J&K legislature. So interesting and a very important session here in Srinagar after a long gap.
As always, Nazir, thank you so much for joining us with the latest from Ground Zero. As my colleague Nazir Masoodi is reporting, the first ever session of Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory Assembly is scheduled to begin in just a short while from now. I will, of course, revert to you for regular updates during the course of the day. Thanks so much, Nazir. With that, let's turn our attention now to India's biggest metros breathing toxic air. With the winter approaching, a thin layer of smog engulfed the national capital as the air quality index in Delhi remained to be in the very poor category. While in coastal Mumbai too, the air quality has deteriorated after Diwali. It's currently in the poor category. The AQI has dipped to as low as 432 as far as Anand Vihar in Delhi is concerned. The PM 2.5 concentration is nearly 60 times higher than the WHO permissible limit. The Delhi government is expected to deploy about 200 mobile anti-smog guns. In Mumbai, meanwhile, residents have woken up to smoggy air. The air quality is in the poor category, and the suburbs in Mumbai are actually worst hit by the air pollution. My colleague Shreya Ghosh is tracking the latest developments for us from the RML hospital in Delhi. Also joining us from Mumbai for a live update will be Manoj Raite. Let's go across to Shreya for a quick update and reality check from Delhi at the moment. Shreya, recent analysis by the Centre for Science and Environment has shown Delhi's PM 2.5 levels have hit a peak by midnight on Diwali this year, which was about 13% higher than the peaks observed last year. But as we speak right now, according to the website IQ Air, the PM 2.5 concentration is currently 59 times higher than the World Health Organization prescribed danger limit.
Absolutely, Parmeshwar, and the surging PM 2.5 and PM 10 levels have hazardous effects on one's health. And I'm right outside RML hospital. It is one such center-run hospital that has opened this specialized pollution clinic to cater to pollution-related health illnesses. We have seen mostly senior citizens who already have, heart or lung conditions. They are more prone to developing health pollution-related illnesses like acute bronchitis, respiratory respiratory issues and breathing issues. And of course, we know that every Monday from 2 to 4 p.m. this particular clinic is operational. And we know that because of the increasing pollution levels and as we approach the winter season, we know that the AQI levels will continue to worsen, and the parts of our body that are exposed to this polluted air gets affected the most, and especially the lungs, which is the most vulnerable part of the body because of this toxic air that we are breathing, which is equivalent to smoking 10 to 12 cigarettes a day. And let me tell you that unlike the general OPDs, this particular clinic offers a space for educating and counseling patients on how pollution triggers and worsens their symptoms. And we also know that most of these, trigger points, like the kind of health issues that people go through, like sneezing, shortness of breath, eyes burning, these kind of symptoms get triggered with the rising pollution levels. And here at this particular center, the clinic, we know that antihistamines are given to patients who are suffering from these polluted air, and these antihistamines can sort of modulate the immune response and can reduce inflammation. So anybody who is suffering from pollution-related illnesses can come here and get themselves treated. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Shreya, for joining us with that update from Delhi. Well, Delhi may have earned the dubious distinction of being the air pollution capital of the country over the years, but Mumbai seems to be climbing up that list. In fact, this is what the latest air quality parameters post-Diwali also show. Anuj is with us from Mumbai at the moment. Anuj, this morning, many of us saw a thick layer of smog that had engulfed the area near Marine Drive. Is there still low visibility near the sea face? How toxic is the air that Mumbai is breathing today?
The visibility, gradually becomes a little better as the clouds clear out and as the afternoon approaches us. But what we are seeing is that every morning since October 1, the low visibility is becoming a trend, and there are several reasons to cite for it. Firstly, always we've seen that the onset of winters here in Mumbai results into low visibility, worsening of the air quality, and of course also the increase in the air pollution as a whole. But what we've seen is that after the withdrawal of the monsoon from the city here on the 15th of October, there has been no rain as such here in the city. So when the monsoons occur on a regular basis here in the city, and that usually happens from the month of June till the month of October, mid-October, that is when the water is cleaning out the air, and which is why it is dispersing the pollutants which are present, hence making the air a little cleaner. But when the withdrawal of the entire monsoon winds happened, we also saw that the speed of the winds at which it goes around is also reduced. Besides that, because it is winter and the public activities have also increased, given the fact that it is not raining much, it is also resumed. It has resulted in the resumption of a lot of construction activities and a lot of infrastructural activities as well. All of these things coming together as a whole result in the increase in the pollution as far as Mumbai is concerned. And it has been a trend here in the city sadly since 2019, and we are seeing that the pollution level and the AQI levels are growing since then. But besides Mumbai, there are several second-tier cities as well which are getting affected by the same.
As always, Anuj, thanks so much for joining us with that update from Mumbai. Shreya joining us with that update from Delhi. As health experts and doctors have repeatedly asserted, constant exposure to high pollution concentrations can cause severe health concerns such as lung and brain damage. We, of course, will keep tracking the toxic air quality in both the metro cities for you. For now, let's turn our attention to a quick sports update. India's dreams of making it to the World Test Championship final were dented after New Zealand handed them a historic 0-3 series whitewash at home. It was their first ever series loss in such a manner on home soil, as India lost the third test by 25 runs at the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. India slipped to second place in the WTC standings with 58.33 percentage points, trailing Australia's 62.5. India had dominated the Test Championship standings for most of the 2024-25 cycle, but the recent 3 consecutive losses cost them their top spot. Rika Roy has the lowdown.
It is important, for me to understand that, life is not about just highs. There can be lows as well, which I've seen a lot through my career. So, but definitely, something like this will be a very low point in my career, having lost, 3 games at home. And yep, I fully take the responsibility of that, as a captain and as a leader as well. I have not been at the best of my abilities right from the start of the series. And yeah, with the bat as well, I have not been good enough.
We really wouldn't call it a blip in their performance. I would call it a reality check for Team India, because it hasn't happened suddenly. This really is the result of Team India not really concentrating on the longer format of the game, which is Test cricket. There has been a lot of focus on the slam bang format of the game, which is T20, and all the techniques, all the temperament were adjusted towards playing the white ball cricket. Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, perhaps the last product of, one would say, grinding in longer format of the game. But once the Cheteshwar Pujaras and the Ajinkya Rahanes left the middle order of the Indian team, there hasn't been a so-called glue, an anchor in the Indian team. And as a result, you see when wickets started falling, they tumbled. It was almost like a procession. There wasn't a number 3 or a number 4 blocking out the opposition. It is more to do with strategy. It's more to do with how Indian team has shaped up on the basis of white ball cricket over the last few years. Yes, they have performed magnificently on home soil and abroad. 18 straight series wins did not come in one day. It came over a 12-year period. But now with what has happened against New Zealand, the team and the management have to go back to the drawing board and see where they need to fix this malice.
As always, news and updates continue right here on NDTV 24/7, right after this very short break.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 50 Pro, world's first AI-powered pro-grade camera.
NDTV proudly presents NDTV World Summit 2024, the India Century. I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's inaugural session at the NDTV Summit outlined his vision for the India Century, driven by aspirational India.
हमारा प्रयास होगा भारत की सेंचुरी सिर्फ भारत की नहीं बल्कि पूरी मानवता की जीत की सेंचुरी बने.
The summit brought together prominent global leaders, highlighting India's pivotal role on the world stage.
As the world watches with bated breath, the contest that will impact the world.
Exclusive insights, expert analysis, and ground zero updates as history unfolds.
We are not a vessel for the schemes of wannabe dictator.
I'm the opposite of a Nazi. The election that will have worldwide ramifications.
Immigration is far more than just a political talking point.
NDTV World brings you
Welcome back. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are pushing their closing messages as they tour several swing states with around 40 hours to go before America decides its next president. As Trump's campaign works to clear up his remarks about shooting the media, Kamala Harris dodged questions about her vote on a California crime measure. But in the latest dash to the election finish line on Tuesday, Kamala Harris's team is cautiously optimistic about her chances of victory in what continues to be an extremely tight race. The polls in America suggest the race is still exceptionally close and more than 75 million people have already voted. The big question being asked is, which way is the election going? How tough is this contest? How high are the stakes? Pretty high, you must have figured out by now. The tightly contested landscape means the race remains highly uncertain as the campaign enters its final hours.
So Michigan, 2 days to go. You ready? You ready? In one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime, and we have momentum. It is on our side. Can you feel it? And we have the momentum because our campaign is tapping into the ambitions, the aspirations, and the dreams of the American people. Because we are optimistic and excited about what we can do together.
To our great sports fans, and I hope you're having a fantastic time. We're 2 days away from the most important election in the history of our country. We've got to save our country, and it needs saving. It's in very bad shape. The worst economic numbers in generations were just announced 2 days ago. We're losing jobs, we're losing everything, including viability. We're going to end up in a depression based on what's been happening. We've never seen anything like it, at least for the last 40 years. We have to straighten out our country, we have to close our borders, we have to lower our taxes, we have to get rid of inflation, and we're going to do it. Just remember, Kamala and her friends broke it. I'll fix it. Most important election in the history of our country. Go and vote.
It's the last mile of the campaign in the United States. The tightly contested landscape means the race remains highly uncertain as the campaign enters its final hours. But there are lots of questions on how exactly the United States votes. What exactly is the Electoral College? And does the popular vote necessarily mean that the person will get the hot seat of the US president? Well, here are the details for you.
Established in 1787, the Founding Fathers created the Electoral College as a compromise between electing the president by a vote in Congress and by popular vote. In the college, each state has a set number of electors based on its congressional representation, senators, and House members. There are 538 electors total. Most states allocate all their electoral votes to the candidate who wins the majority of the popular vote in that state. Maine and Nebraska are the only exceptions with their proportional allocation. A candidate needs a majority of at least 270 electoral votes to claim the presidency. It is important to note that the college is not free of controversies. Candidates can win the presidency without winning the popular vote. We have seen this in the elections of 1824, 1876, 1888, 2000, and as recent as 2016 when Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton despite securing less votes. This sparks debates about fairness and representation. Campaigns focus intensely on a handful of swing states where the outcome is uncertain, often leaving out voters in states deemed safe for one party. While some advocate for abolishing the Electoral College in favor of a direct popular vote, arguing it would enhance democratic legitimacy, supporters claim it protects smaller states' interests and ensures a broader national campaign. So, what's the bottom line? The Electoral College is a fascinating blend of historical compromise and modern contention. As elections loom, the debate rages on. Is it a cornerstone of democracy or an outdated relic? Buckle up, the story is far from over. Bureau Report for NDTV World.
Joining us live from New York, Professor of Political Science at Columbia University, Robert Shapiro. Thank you so much, Mr. Shapiro, for making time for us. Will Tuesday be a very good day for Republicans, courtesy battleground states? Or could Kamala Harris come out on top, sir? What have you been picking up on?
Well, what we've been picking up on is this is an extraordinarily close election. This is closer than a closer election than any that I could remember. The latest polls today just confirm it's getting closer. Kamala Harris had taken off after she had gotten the Democratic nomination, but the gap is closed, and this is really an extraordinarily exciting election coming up.
Well, some people around Trump, though, have said in recent weeks that they think that the former president will win 6 of the 7 key battleground states. And some say the South could get a little crazy if Donald Trump is not elected. Do you see any truth to this argument?
Well, there's no truth to his expectation that he should win. It really is extraordinarily close. And all of the top analysts and even ordinary people on the street see that this election is very close and that we don't know who the winner is going to be. The thing we do know is that Trump will engage in some kind of election denial if he's not the clear winner.
Right, that has been flagged actually by many geopolitical analysts and political watchers. Meanwhile, Senate Democrats' sneaky advantage has been that Senate Democrat campaigns have outspent Republicans with the one currency that both parties value the most, hard dollars. The Senate map favors Republicans, but sir, the Senate money favors Democrats. Aren't these competing dynamics likely to collide on election day?
Well, they are. I mean, the fundraising in this campaign has been extraordinary. Kamala Harris's fundraising has been extraordinary, and the Democratic Party has been raising a lot of money to attempt to maintain control of the Senate, which is something that's going to be extraordinarily difficult for them. But they're giving it a good try, and they're giving it a good try by spending money.
Well, as the United States gears up for the 2024 presidential election, a shadow looms large, though. Election interference has made it back on the agenda, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Well, from Russia to China and Iran to domestic threats and allegations against the UK's Labour Party, it's all going down. This report examines the internal, external and surprise threats facing the American democracy. Listen in.
Just days after the election cycle began, U.S. intelligence and media reports indicate that Russian operatives are already on the move. Recent investigations uncovered coordinated disinformation campaigns targeting social media platforms, echoing Moscow's 2016 and 2020 tactics. These posts seek to exploit societal divisions, race, politics, and public health, creating a landscape of mistrust. Analysts warn that with every like and share, these false narratives could influence vulnerable voters. The latest example of the same was seen as recent as last Friday. Russia allegedly manufactured and spread a fake video that depicts someone destroying ballots marked to former President Donald Trump in Pennsylvania. Meanwhile, China is adopting a different strategy. It is reverting back to one of the oldest tricks in the books, hacking. FBI and other U.S. agencies are investigating unauthorized access to commercial telecommunications infrastructure by subjects associated with China. Republican presidential candidate Trump and his running mate J.D. Vance are reportedly among a number of people inside and outside of government whose phone numbers were targeted by Chinese hackers. Following this revelation, it was reported that phones used by people affiliated with the Harris campaign were also targeted. You see, attempts to infiltrate political organizations and campaigns are means to seek to sway the voters' opinion and create an unequal playing field. The story is eerily similar when one speaks of Iran. Microsoft has pointed out that Iranian government-linked hackers have researched and probed election-related websites in multiple U.S. swing states. An effort to discover vulnerabilities that could be used to influence the presidential election. But it's not just foreign actors. Domestic extremists are also a significant threat. Law enforcement agencies are on high alert for potential violence at polling places and election-related events. Case in point, the 2021 insurrection. January 6, 2021's heavily armed mob attack was an attack not just on the US Capitol building, but also on democracy and the rule of law. Meanwhile, unsuspecting actors are also facing allegations of election interference. Keir Starmer-led UK tops the chart. The Trump campaign has accused Starmer's Labour Party of blatant foreign interference. This after some volunteers traveled to help campaign for Vice Presidential Harris. The Red Campaign has filed a complaint with the Federal Election Commission in Washington. It is demanding an investigation into what it has termed apparently illegal contributions from Labour to the Harris campaign. As the 2024 election approaches, the threat of interference, both foreign and domestic, poses a critical challenge to American democracy. The world watches closely as the battle for truth unfolds. Stay informed and stay vigilant. With Arjun Samar Mahendran, Samya Afsar for NDTV World.
Meanwhile, author and poet Salman Akhtar, in an exclusive interview to NDTV, hit out at the Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris for not fully embracing her Hindu heritage. Mr. Akhtar said the Indian American community is not swayed by her campaign. In an interview with my colleague Gauri Dwivedi, we leave you with this.
This is a very special conversation on NDTV with Dr. Salman Akhtar, who's a world-renowned psychiatrist, author of 113 books, someone who has seen US politics for over 50 years, and someone who also writes on a variety of issues. Thank you so much, Dr. Akhtar, for speaking to NDTV. I'm going to come to your book that you've written in just a bit, but let me start by asking you that we're in Pennsylvania, a state that is considered to be pretty much decisive when it comes to the US election results. How do you view the election right now, the issues on which the Indian Americans are set to vote, and most importantly, the American politics right now as it stands?
Let me answer your comment or respond to it in reverse order. One about the current American politics. I've been in this country now 51 years, and I've never seen and never experienced this country as so divided socially, politically, and such. The country is actually really, really divided, and very strongly in terms of ideology, in terms of feelings, in terms of sense of identity, belonging, philosophy of life, attitude towards minorities, etc., etc. So it's a very strongly emotional election. All elections are emotional. All elections are fundamentally divisive because they say elect A or elect B.
Right.
But those divisions are ideational. Now the divisions are powerfully emotional and almost vitriolic and potentially violent. So it's a very, very powerful and significant moment in American politics.
There hasn't been any violence till now, though there are expectations that the result may coincide with some acts of it. I will come to that in a bit. But first, in terms of the Indian American community, you are one of the strongest members of that, very illustrious member of the community. How has it shaped up in the last couple of years? They've grown significantly. They've doubled in the last 10 odd years. They are powerful in all metrics, economically, socially. Politically, are they getting the voice that they've been wanting to for some time? Are they now part of the political representation that the Indian American community has been seeking for some time?
I think the answer is unfortunately a little complex. One is that when we say Indian American community, we are being a little wishful in viewing that community as a homogeneous. The fact is, even within Indian American community, there are cracks. Cracks, for instance, between Sikhs and non-Sikhs.
Right.
There have been incidences that we don't necessarily need to get into in Canada, in the United States, and in the history in the last 20, 30, 40 years, which have caused a very subtle but painful crack between Sikhs and Hindus. Of course, the Muslims and Hindus from old time, their partition, etc. So there are all kind of cracks in there. Plus, also whether Hindu, even within the Hindu community, a relatively moderate, secular, liberal, left-leaning Hindu community versus a Hindutva community. So that what we call Indian community has Sikh community, Muslims who are Indian really from the heart, Muslims who may have other kinds of empathies and sympathies.
Okay.
And then Sikhs who are in some ways broken-hearted and suspect and also angry and resigned. So that we have a collage and a mosaic of Indian community.
Yes.
On one hand, is quite splintered. On the other hand, because the immigration in this country was tilted towards the educated,
yes,
and the potentially affluent or the affluent to be.
Yeah.
Therefore, one thing that binds them together is money. Most Indian people are more affluent than other ethnic groups.
Yeah.
And a quality that they share with the Chinese, I think, and with the Jews of hard work, industry, value of education,
yes,
family cohesion. In that way, Indian community can be seen as one.
Yeah.
In some ways not as one, in some ways as one.
Yeah.
In the latter issue, I think unfortunately or understandably, the interest that drives this whole country anyway, and I think this side of the Indian interest is money and taxes and revenues and such. And in that way, they might lean one way where they feel that is going to be more advantageous financially for them.
Okay. That's an important insight you gave. You're right about the fact that the Indian American community is affluent. The median household income is about $150,000, which is more than double the average national income. But there are 2-3 aspects of what you said which I want to delve into further. Of course, Indian American community is not a monolith group.
Yes.
There are several aspects to it.
Yes.
And let's talk about those, whether the impact of what's happening in the West Asia crisis has any bearing on how Indian Muslims, who are of course now Indian Americans voting in this, is that an impact you see? Right now in this election, there's a very large prominent grouping in Michigan of Muslim voters. A lot of them are from India. Do you see that having some sort of an impact?
I think so. I think the Muslims in this country, including Indian Muslims, Pakistani Muslims also, but including Indian Muslims, I think are very wary of both parties. But because of the relatively one-sided support of United States in the Middle East conflict. But I think that they are somewhat more wary of the Republicans and more wary of their candidate, because they feel, and I think rightly so, that if the Republicans come in power, especially their candidate, then they might give almost carte blanche to certain powers in Middle East, which would be disadvantageous and hurtful and disenfranchising for the Muslims. So in that way, in their larger solidarity with Muslims, I think the Muslim vote will paradoxically go to the Democrats, although they are not happy with them either.
Okay. What about the factor when it comes to the Pannun issue? It's an issue that hasn't had an impact in terms of the India-US relationship, as it shouldn't, because it's a specific case. But from a voter point of view, from the Sikh community point of view, help us understand that, is there some bearing on the Sikh voting patterns here in the United States?
I don't know. The fact is, I don't know. But what I do know is that there is a quiet, painful, and subterranean schism that has evolved. And it is since 1984, or when, not 84, 84, right? Yeah, so it has since then lasted. It gets healed over and sealed over, more sealed over than healed over. I mean, obviously the fact that Mr. Manmohan Singh became the Prime Minister of India, etc., had kind of both tokenism as well as actual, both healing effects, just like Mr. Obama's election in this country. But I think there is a crack. And I don't think that affects the voting pattern. It may not in this country, I don't think so. Because that has less pertinence. I mean, the recent scandals are too recent and too ill understood, actually, frankly. Too ill understood, too vague, and not their knowledge and their influence is not that pervasive. So I don't think that that has any effect.
The other aspect I wanted to ask you about is the wooing of the Hindu Americans here. Particularly by the Republican Party. Donald Trump has mentioned that on multiple occasions. How do you see that having a bearing, again, on voting preferences, given the fact that the Indian community here has predominantly been a Democrat stronghold? Yes. Studies seem to indicate that that is now changing. Even if it may not be a very significant trend, the fact that it is changing and the backdrop that Donald Trump is wooing this affluent class of voters who are, in a position to become important donors and so on and so forth. How do you see that?
See, one of the common ploys, not only with Mr. Trump, but with all politicians, including politicians in our own country, is to make people feel that they are somehow endangered. And once you convince them they are endangered, then you can offer to rescue them and such. So, for example, the email or whatever Mr. Trump sent around to Happy Diwali, but it portrays, first of all, it conflates Indians with Hindus. That's one potential problem. The second is that it also begins with their endangerment of a minority in Bangladesh, which has little to do with, with Hindus here, so to speak, Indian Hindus here. But this idea that somehow Indian Hindus are in danger in this country, I don't think so at all. I don't think, I see no danger. But to make them and to conflate the Bangladeshi Hindus with Indian Hindus and then Indian Hindus with the Indian Hindu Americans, this conflation is a trickery to create a sense of victimhood from which now we can promise to rescue them. The fact is, Indian Hindus are very well off here and very well taken care of and industrious, proud, hardworking, and prouder by the day.
Yes.
With the positive sides of Mr. Modi's government.
Right.
Please understand, Mr. Modi has his own, I think, domestic side we have to question. But he has also done some very good things. There's no doubt about this. Brought power to the country, fame to the country, affluence to the country. The Hindu-Muslim problem, minority problem, Hindu-Christian problem, I think those are problems and weaker parts of what is happening there.
Okay. Let's now shift focus and talk about your latest book. And I saw this before the interview, and I wanted to ask you first of all, talk to our viewers. Tell us the reason why you've chosen this title, and of course your brother is on the cover as well of it. Tell us why is it that you've come up with this title? It says Ghar Ka Bhedi in it, and because for the longest we know Ghar Ka Bhedi in a separate context completely. Yes. You tell us.
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm glad that you talk about literature and poetry, because I know much more about literature and poetry than about politics. So thank you for bringing me to a safer ground. I come from, as you know, from a literary family. Yes. And my father was a prominent writer and poet and film songwriter also. My uncle, my grandfather, my brother. So these are interesting personalities, interesting poets, and somewhat different kinds of poets and different kind of people. So as a person with some distance and yet deep belonging to all four of them, I thought this would be a good thing to write about their poetry and slightly about their character. I've tried to not get into too much in the character and such, but it was an interesting exercise. The name of the book is borrowed actually, which I acknowledge in the preface, from an article by my mother, who had written an article in 1950 about my father, naming that book, article.
Okay, but the fact that you put your brother on the cover, would you like to talk about it? You know, there is Javed Akhtar on the cover here. The reason why you've put that, could you tell us more about that?
Look, the cover is drawn by the press. They drew the cover. And these are all 4 people. And the cover is not only Javed Akhtar, cover is also Janisar Akhtar, Majaz, and Mustar Khairabadi.
Yeah.
And the way the cover is designed, I think is very interesting. And that is that it's a kind of juxtaposition of time. So the grandfather is far behind, and my brother is right in front.
Yeah.
So passage of time and generations.
Yes.
You know, it's also interesting to me that the designer, and credit goes to the designer, has used more sketches for the grandfather and my brother, and photos for my uncle and my my father.
Right.
You know, different methods and different means.
Lastly, I want to ask you this: that you're a prolific writer.
Yes.
You write Urdu and poetry.
Yes.
Ghazals, there's a book on ghazals as well that is there.
Yes.
How come you've been away from Bollywood, and how come Bollywood hasn't enticed you till now?
That's a good question. I mean, parts of Bollywood are in me, of course, because my father was a songwriter in movies. My brother is a prominent writer. My nephew, niece, and everything. My son is in Hollywood and very successful director and editor and such. So some acting and some film is inside of me. But you know, influences happen in childhood, and I took a different path. I took a path towards medicine. And from medicine, I kind of went into psychiatry, then psychoanalysis, and now more and more into writing. So in a way, I'm in a medical poetry business, or poetic medicine business.
Poetic medicine itself is a completely different domain, which I fear I know nothing about. But thank you so much, Dr. Akhtar, for speaking to NDTV, for taking out the time.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
New day, new show, a new experience.
Start your day with the news, not views.
We bring you stories that matter
and impact your life.
News that informs and keeps you ahead. From Maximum City, Mumbai,
to the seat of power, Delhi,
NDTV brings you the best breakfast show. Breakfast news on NDTV, 8 a.m. every day.
NDTV proudly upholds its legacy of trust and credibility. According to the prestigious Reuters Institute's Digital News Report 2024, NDTV is the top-most news platform in the country. Number 1 in both online and offline reach in India. Beating all its competition, NDTV stands for trust.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always buzz. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts.
Maharashtra quota activist Manoj Patil withdraws from the upcoming elections. This U-turn comes hours after he vowed for revenge. It is the last day for withdrawing nominations for the upcoming Maharashtra elections. Meanwhile, it is a last-minute push by Mahayuti as well as Mahavikas Aghadi to solve the rebel issue. First assembly session begins after Jammu and Kashmir polls. Omar Abdullah addresses the assembly amid the recent surge in terror attacks in the Union Territory. Disruptions at the Indian consular camp after Khalistani elements attack in Canada. India calls these disruptions deeply disappointing. Just one day to go for the final showdown between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Close margins in key battleground states expected. Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Osama Shah. There has been a big development in Maharashtra as far as the assembly elections is concerned. Manoj Patil, he has withdrawn from the upcoming elections. This U-turn comes by the Maratha quota activist. He has withdrawn for his nomination from the upcoming elections. In fact, the Maratha quota activists wanted to field 10 to 15 candidates as far as we understand. Meanwhile, my colleague Radhika joins us to get us more on this. Radhika, break it down for us. How does it affect the political landscape of Maharashtra now?
You know, as far as Mahayuti and MVA are concerned, of course, this is good news for them as it will lead to no division of votes, and also there won't be the kind of smear campaign as far as Mahayuti is concerned anymore. Although Manoj Patil says that he will continue the big fight as far as Maharashtra government is concerned, and he will be fighting against Mahayuti. However, this certainly is a big surprise and a big development. Manoj Patil, who yesterday till last night spoke about how he will be fielding candidates, at least about 25 candidates will be fielded, of which he spoke about 10 to 15 of them. He had also spoken about constituencies in which he will be fighting, had taken multiple meetings with Dalit as well, Dalit members as well as Muslim community, saying that this will be one of the biggest fights as far as assembly elections are concerned, in terms of Maratha activists and several other communities. But today he's taken a complete U-turn. He says that he will not be fighting elections. He also went on to say that fighting with the help of one caste is not feasible. That cannot be done. And he did not get much help from several of the friendly parties, perhaps referring to Dalit as well as Muslim leaders with whom he had been holding discussions. He said that he had not got the list as promised by several of these parties, and therefore he cannot win this election based on one caste equation or one community equation, which is why he decided to withdraw from the fray. So this is certainly a big political development, but for both MV and Mahayuti, this is in a way good news. We know for a fact that Jarange Patil had been vowing, as you said, vowing to defeat Mahayuti, said that he will take revenge against Mahayuti government over the fact that Mahayuti did not do much for the benefit of Marathas, and he'd been actively campaigning against Mahayuti government over the last several weeks. So now, of course, him urging all the candidates to withdraw from the fray, withdraw nominations. Certainly this is a huge development and, a big setback of sorts as far as, the supporters of Maratha community are concerned and supporters of Dalit and Muslim community who were supporting Jarange Patil are concerned. But good news for Mahayuti as well as MVA.
All right, the withdrawal of Jarange Patil's nomination and his request for other Maratha leaders to follow suit has significant implications for the political landscape in Maharashtra, as Radhika was mentioning. And in order to understand who will benefit more between the Mahavikas Aghadi and Mahayuti alliance and to break down the potential consequences, we are currently joined by Rohit Chandavarkar, consulting editor, Free Press Journal. So, welcome to NDTV. My first question to you is, what are the likely impact here on both the Mahavikas Aghadi as well as the Mahayuti after his withdrawal?
See, Osama, what we saw during the Lok Sabha elections 4 months ago, especially in Marathwada region of Maharashtra, was that Manoj Patil's agitation, the Maratha agitation, which really became a big thing in Maharashtra during the Lok Sabha polls, damaged the BJP and Eknath Shinde and Ajit Pawar's coalition. They lost many seats. In fact, in Marathwada region, they saw the BJP alliance lost all the seats except one seat in Sambhajinagar, and that loss is clearly attributed to the Maratha agitation. So it was kind of thought earlier that Manoj Jarange Patil fielding candidates will kind of eat into Maha Vikas Aghadi's votes, because the Maratha votes 4 months ago clearly went in large numbers to the Maha Vikas Aghadi, which is the Congress, Sharad Pawar and Uddhav Thackeray alliance. Now, if Maratha candidates contest, obviously they will take away that base away from Maha Vikas Aghadi. That was the calculation. Now that he has suddenly today morning announced that he is withdrawing, I can see that all political analysts here agree that it is a clear benefit that is going to Maha Vikas Aghadi, which is the Congress Sharad Pawar Uddhav alliance, because the Maratha votes will now go to them instead of going to Manoj Jarange Patil's candidates. He had fielded 17 candidates and all had filed their nominations as independents. Today morning, he has announced to the press that he will ask all of them to withdraw. And he says there is no point in fighting elections if there is no chance of winning any of the seats. So remember, in any case, whether it is Manoj Jarange Patil, whether it is Raj Thackeray, these players in Maharashtra are not really looking at winning too many seats. In any case, their agenda was to cut into some kind of votes. Both of them were going to, I think, cut into Maha Vikas Aghadi's votes. Now that Manoj Jarange Patil has withdrawn, it looks like the benefit will go clearly to the Congress-led alliance in Maharashtra. I say Congress-led because they are contesting maximum number of seats, more than 100 seats.
In fact,
so that is what the picture is now.
So having said that, just to understand, what strategies do you think will the Mahayuti employ now to mitigate the potential losses, especially among the Maratha community?
Well, as we speak, you can already see leaders of the Mahayuti alliance, such as Chhagan Bhujbal, Maharashtra minister, prominent leader of the OBC community, coming out and speaking and saying, making an argument that in any case, Maratha votes will be going to all parties, all sides, and nobody would have been able to dominate the Maratha votes single-handedly. That is the statement he has given just 10 minutes ago. So Mahayuti is also very smart. I mean, it's the BJP-led alliance.
Sir, there is breaking news coming in at this point of time. The Jammu and Kashmir Assembly session, it is going on, and there has been a massive ruckus that is taking place inside the Assembly session. Remember, this is the first session of the newly elected Assembly, and you can see on your screens the Chief Minister sitting there in the background, and there is a lot of ruckus happening in the Assembly at the moment. We'll try and understand and get more details as to what this is all about and what is happening exactly in the Assembly there. You could see the policemen there trying to intervene, and this disruption happening inside the Assembly. This is, remember, the first session of the newly elected Assembly. Earlier, Omar Abdullah, as well as the opposition leader, made their opening remarks in the Assembly session as it started. And we can now see that there is a lot of ruckus that is happening inside the Assembly at the moment. Let's listen into what exactly is being said.
We should know the rule. When the speaker is on his legs, nobody can speak. आज मेरी बात सुन लीजिए. उस आने वाले नंबर ने जो भी बात कही है या जो भी लिख के भेजा है मेरे तक पहुंचा भी नहीं है. मेरे तक पहुंचेगा. Examine करेंगे, मैं examine करूँगा और I will inform the House what action I have taken. Where are we making noise? अभी honorable governor साहब आ रहे हैं, उनका फलबा हम सब ने यहाँ पर सुनना है. मेहरबानी करके बात करने का मुझे भी 2 मिनट मौका दे दीजिए. कि सोलमन ओकेजन पर हमें आपको तो टाइम मिलेगा. 4 दिन 5 दिन यहाँ पर आती हैं. आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. बस आप किसी को बोलने की इजाजत नहीं होगी. अब तशरीफ रखें आप. टाइम गया, हमारे पास टाइम नहीं है. टाइम नहीं है हमारे पास. आप तशरीफ रखें, आप तशरीफ रखें. तशरीफ रखें, खुर्शीद साहब तशरीफ रखें आप. लीडर ऑफ द हाउस कुछ बोलना चाहते हैं। लीडर ऑफ द हाउस कुछ
ऑनरेबल स्पीकर साहब, आपने मुझे वक्त दिया है। आप पहले ही दिन अगर आप ऑनरेबल स्पीकर साहब, चलिए जनाब, फर्स्ट डे फर्स्ट शो। हमें मालूम था कि इस तरह की तैयारी की जा रही थी ऑनरेबल मेंबर के तरफ से, लेकिन हमें उम्मीद थी कि शायद आज स्पीकर के इलेक्शन और लेफ्टिनेंट गवर्नर के एड्रेस को छोड़ के और फिर ओबिचुअरी रेफरेंसेस, क्योंकि हमारे एक सिटिंग मेंबर आज हमारे दरमियान है नहीं, बहुत से और हमारे एक्स मेंबर्स हमारे साथ है नहीं, उसके बाद हम जो है अपना ये सिलसिला शुरू कर लेते। लेकिन चलिए, आपके ही इलेक्शन के बाद आपको मुबारकबाद पेश करने के बजाय हम इसमें पड़ गए। मैं सियासी तकरीर आज करना चाहता ही नहीं था, इसलिए मैंने कोई सियासी बात शुरू में की नहीं। हालांकि मेरे मेंबरों की तरफ से जो कहा गया गलत नहीं कहा गया था। मैं इसलिए पहले नहीं उठा क्योंकि हाउस का ये तरीका रहता है कि पहले बाकी ऑनरेबल मेंबर्स बोलते हैं, फिर लीडर ऑफ द ऑपोजिशन बोलता है और उसके बाद लीडर ऑफ द हाउस बोलता है। मैं उठा इस उम्मीद के साथ कि मेरे बोलने के बाद, क्योंकि मैंने पूरे हाउस के तरफ से बात की, हाउस एडजर्न होगा और हम दोबारा लेफ्टिनेंट गवर्नर साहब का खुतबा सुनने के लिए जमा होंगे। लेकिन चलिए, थोड़ा सा रिवर्स हुआ और बीच में अब सियासत आ गई। सियासत करना, इसके अलावा तो शायद कुछ मेंबरों के पास और कोई चारा होगा नहीं। ये असेंबली जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों के जज्बात को रिफ्लेक्ट करती है। हकीकत यह है कि जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों ने 5 अगस्त 2019 के फैसले पे अपना मोहर नहीं लगाया है। अगर लगाया होता तो नतीजे अलग होते। हम इस तरफ बैठे हैं, अक्सरियत उन लोगों की है जिन्होंने 5 अगस्त 2019 के फैसलों के खिलाफ अपनी आवाज बुलंद की। अब हाउस इसको किस तरह रिफ्लेक्ट करेगी, इस पर किस तरह बातचीत होगी, इसको किस तरह रिकॉर्ड पे लाया जाएगा, ये एक सिंगल ऑनरेबल मेंबर तय नहीं करेगा। आगे जाके जब प्राइवेट मेंबर बिजनेस का सिलसिला शुरू होगा मेन सेशन में, तब इंडिविजुअल ऑनरेबल मेंबर्स जो लाना चाहे वो लाएं। लेकिन फिलहाल इस सेशन में हाउस के तरफ से क्या बात होगी, क्या रेजोल्यूशन लाया जाएगा, क्या किया जाएगा, वो गवर्नमेंट ट्रेजरी बेंचेस तय करेगी आपकी इजाजत के साथ। तो जो रेजोल्यूशन आज लाया गया है उसकी कोई मतलब अहमियत नहीं है। वो मां सिवाय बदकिस्मती से कैमरास को दिखाने के अलावा उसका और कोई मकसद नहीं है। अगर मकसद होता तो शायद ये लोग हमारे से मशवरा करके तय करते कि हाउस के तरफ से क्या बात आनी चाहिए। अब छोड़िए, स्पीकर साहब, आने वाले दिनों में आपके साथ मशवरा करने के बाद हाउस के तरफ से एक प्रपोजल आ जाएगा जिस पर बहस होगी और फैसला होगा। मैं अब आपसे गुजारिश करता हूं कि आप मेहरबानी करके हाउस को फिलहाल एडजर्न करिए और हम गवर्नर साहब के खुतबे के लिए दोबारा जमा होंगे।
Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, they are addressing the Assembly, Jammu and Kashmir Assembly. This is the first Assembly session after the elections, and what we could see was there was a lot of ruckus there in that Assembly, and the police and security forces had to intervene. In fact, my colleague Nazir Masoodi joins us to get us more on this. Nazir, the Chief Minister there, he made a couple of important points. He mentioned that the people of Jammu and Kashmir did not agree with the 5th August 2019 decision and is the reason why the National Conference is sitting in power, which has irked a lot of opposition members there. And he also said that they are going to come up with resolution, and they will consult all everyone in the Jammu and Kashmir polity before before coming up with that resolution. Just explain it to us. What exactly happened in that Assembly session today?
Well, there was a pandemonium. There was chaos in the Assembly as a member impromptu tried to introduce a resolution while thanking the speakers, showing his appreciation for the election of the speaker. Members were actually speaking over the election of Speaker of Abdurrahim Rathar as Speaker. But in that speech, PDP MLA Wahidur Rahman Parra said, "Oh, I'm reading a resolution and saying that we reject the abrogation of Article 370." On which BJP members stood up, and there was a pandemonium in the Assembly. And they didn't sit down, and despite insistence from the Speaker that he has not got the copy and he has not admitted it and he has not examined it yet. So, but it created this pandemonium, and some people tried to, rush into the well of the House. The members rushed into the well of the House. Finally, Chief Minister Umar Abdullah, who is the leader of the House as well, and he stood up and spoke. And he made some strong comments and saying perhaps the member tried to do, they knew it, he was trying to do, but he never expected he will do it when we were doing when the House was actually electing the Speaker and waiting for the Governor's address, which is going to start in a while from now. And he said, though there would be a resolution when private members will pass, introduce the resolution on that day. And if the member was sincere, he could have discussed with the, ruling party, ruling benches who had the majority. Then it could have been, and he even alleged the member that he is trying to play with the gallery, play with the cameras because he wants to be on the cameras rather than doing something serious. So having said that, it was on the first day of Assembly, which was all about electing a speaker, and also Governor's address was started with lot of racks, lot of pandemonium, or an impromptu, paper read by PDP legislator Wahidur Rahman Parra, and then Chief Minister had made some strong remarks alleging him that playing to the gallery, not actually interested in the resolution, which he indicated that the government would be introducing a resolution, and Umar Abdullah clearly said not a single person was happy with the abrogation of Article 370 in the people of Jammu and Kashmir were not happy. And if they were happy, then they would not have won the election, and those who are opposing the abrogation of 370 are in the treasury bench, not in the opposition bench. So clearly, the first day has started with a lot of racks and pandemonium in Jammu and Kashmir Assembly.
Absolutely. There was a lot of fireworks on the very first day of the Assembly session in Jammu and Kashmir. Nazir, just give us a sense of what all could have been discussed, because there is also another important point that wasn't discussed is the surge in militant violence in Jammu and Kashmir, and that is something that must be there on the agenda. All right, we'll try and get back Nazir back on the line and get more details on this particular story. But moving on to our other big story that we are tracking at this hour is a bus crash that has taken place in Uttarakhand. 20 people are feared dead, and many others are injured after a bus met with an accident in Almora district of Uttarakhand on Monday. Now, the bus with at least 45 passengers aboard went out of control near Kupi village in Marchula, and it fell into a deep gorge. The bus was going from Pauri to Ramnagar when this accident took place. Meanwhile, relief and rescue work is on. The Nainital district police is also engaged in relief work there. And my colleague Kishore joins us to get us more on this. Kishore, just break it down for us. Give us the details of what exactly transpired there.
अभी जो सूचना मिल रही है इसमें लगभग 20 लोगों की डेथ हुई है जो सूचना मिल रही है। इसके अलावा घायलों का रामनगर और अल्मोड़ा जो पास का नज़दीक है यानी हल्द्वानी वहाँ पर इलाज चल रहा है। लगभग सुबह 8:30 बजे के करीब ये हादसा हुआ है। कूपी एक जगह है अल्मोड़ा के मरचुला में, वहाँ पर ये बस डिसबैलेंस होके ये गहरी खाई में गिरी। जो लोकल वहाँ पर विलेजर्स थे तो वो तुरंत वहाँ पर पहुँचे, उन्होंने पुलिस को सूचना दी और जो उनके संसाधन थे उन्होंने सबसे पहले जो घायल लोग हैं उनको बाहर निकाला। करीबन 8:30 बजे ये बस का हादसा हुआ है। पौड़ी ज़िला जो है वहाँ से ये रामनगर जा रहे थे। चूँकि दिवाली और भैया दूज के बाद लोग अपने घर वापस आ रहे थे और कुछ गांव गए थे, इसके अलावा कुछ अपने कामकाज वापस लौट रहे थे, तो बस में संभवतः ये माना जा रहा है कि भीड़ ज़्यादा थी। 45 सीटर ये बस थी, तो इसने 8:30 बजे के करीब जब ये मरचुला के पास कूपी गांव के पास पहुंची तो इसने नियंत्रण खो दिया और ये बस गहरी खाई में गिरी, जिसकी वजह से एक बड़ा भीषण हादसा हुआ है। जो तस्वीर है उसमें साफ दिख रहा है कि बस कितनी बुरी तरह क्षतिग्रस्त हुई है और उसमें जो घायल थे वो छिटक कर कई जगह दूर गिरे। इसके अलावा जो वहाँ पर रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन के लिए SDRF, स्थानीय पुलिस, मेडिकल टीमें वहाँ पहुँच चुकी है, जो लगातार घायलों को वहाँ हॉस्पिटल पहुँचाया जहाँ इलाज चल रहा है। लेकिन अभी तक जो जानकारी मिल रही है उसमें लगभग 20 लोगों की डेथ हुई है इस भीषण हादसे में। फिलहाल मुख्यमंत्री ने भी निर्देश दिया कि घायलों को तुरंत इलाज के लिए रेफ़र किया जाए, बड़े हॉस्पिटल रेफ़र किया जाए, एयर एम्बुलेंस को भी भेजा गया है। इसके अलावा जो तमाम रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन है वो लगातार अभी भी चल रहा है और इस बात की तलाश की जा रही है कि कोई व्यक्ति बस से, क्योंकि काफ़ी नीचे गिरी है, तो छिटक कर बस से कहीं आसपास की जो झाड़ियां हैं फिर या कहीं और ना अटका हो, इसलिए वहां पर रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन अभी भी चल रहा है। फिलहाल अभी इस बारे में कहना मुश्किल है कि हादसा किन कारणों से हुआ, लेकिन अभी इसकी जांच चल रही है और इसमें जो अल्मोड़ा के SSP है वो इसमें हो सकता है कि इसमें बयान दे और इसमें मीडिया को बताएं कि किस वजह से हादसा हुआ। लेकिन सोमवार का दिन उत्तराखंड के लिए काफ़ी काला साबित हुआ है, जिसमें लगभग 20 लोगों ने अपनी जान गंवाई है। जी।
All right, Kishore Rawat, thank you very much for getting us all the latest in that story. We'll keep coming back to you as things develop and we get more information. Meanwhile, after reports of multiple incidents of attacks in Canada and videos purportedly showing Khalistani elements have emerged, the Indian High Commission in Canada has now reacted and blamed anti-India elements for the violence outside the consular camp co-organized with the Hindu Sabha Mandir in Brampton. In a statement, the Indian High Commission has said that it is deeply disheartening to see such disruptions being allowed for routine consular work being organized by our consulates with the fullest cooperations of local co-organizers. While the Indian High Commission's latest statement makes no explicit reference to any Khalistani elements, the Mayor of Brampton, Patrick Brown, he has called for punishment to the greatest extent of law for those held accountable for the violence. And my colleague Mohammed Ghazali joins us to get us more on this. Ghazali, how do we view these incidents, especially in the context of how things have developed as far as India-Canada relations are concerned?
See, this is exactly what the MEA, in their last response when asked about the India-Canada relations, responded by saying that despite all these tensions simmering between the two countries diplomatically, the Indian High Commission or the Indian government is more concerned about the Indians who are staying in Canada. And this was something like inevitable. This consular services or the camp organized by the Indian High Commission in Canada happens every year during this season in multiple gurdwaras and temples, because gurdwaras and temples act as a community center which is frequented by Indians who are staying in Canada. And this was also under the scanner because of the rising tension, the protest by the Khalistani elements, and it also had one court order which had asked the Canadian authorities to ensure that when these camps are organized in temples or gurdwaras at least, there should be a buffer zone out of which or away from which these protesters can protest. But what we saw outside this Hindu temple there last night in Canada is that a huge group of protesters gathered there. Khalistani elements or people who support the cause of Khalistan. They got very violent with the devotees there, and what the reports and pictures suggest that perhaps devotees who were women and children were also attacked inside the Gurdwara, inside the temple, while they were trying to flee from there. Now, overall, if you ask that how should we see this entire incident, it certainly appears that the relationship between the two countries have now taken a nosedive, and in no clear terms we can say that perhaps to restore this relationship, the Canadian authorities will have to rein in these elements, which the Indian government has repeatedly raised a request with the Canadian authorities time and again to rein in these elements, because this is not the first time this is happening. We had seen protest outside the High Commission. We have seen protest against the diplomats, including the outgoing diplomat or the recently recalled Indian High Commissioner in Canada, Mr. Sanjeev Verma. He has faced multiple protests in the last 3 to 5 years since he was posted there, and this has now started, the repercussion is such that now the Indian community within Canada is not safe, and there are protests by Sikh groups, there are protests by non-Sikh groups who are staying there, and there are multiple reports which are emerging that now a counter-protest is happening in front of certain Gurdwaras in Canada. So overall, it's a law and order situation, but for Indian government, the safety of Indian citizens there is paramount, and that is why the Indian High Commission in Canada has also issued a statement condemning the violence, but also asking the Canadian authorities to check these rising incidents of violence against Indian community by Khalistani elements.
All right, Mohammad Ghazali, thank you very much for getting us all the details and breaking it down for us and simplifying it for us. And as Trump's campaign works to clear up his remarks about shooting the media, Kamala Harris dodged questions about her vote on a California crime measure, but in the last dash to the election finish line on Tuesday, Kamala Harris's team is cautiously optimistic about her chances of victory in what continues to be an extremely tight race. Big question that we are asking is, which way is this election going?
So Michigan, 2 days to go. You ready? You ready? In one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime, and we have momentum. It is on our side. Can you feel it? And we have the momentum because our campaign is tapping into the ambitions, the aspirations, and the dreams of the American people. Because we are optimistic and excited about what we can do together.
To our great sports fans, and I hope you're having a fantastic time. We're 2 days away from the most important election in the history of our country. We've got to save our country, and it needs saving. It's in very bad shape. The worst economic numbers in generations were just announced 2 days ago. We're losing jobs, we're losing everything, including viability. We're going to end up in a depression based on what's been happening. We've never seen anything like it, at least for the last 40 years. We have to straighten out our country. We have to close our borders. We have to lower our taxes. We have to get rid of inflation, and we're going to do it. Just remember, Kamala and her friends broke it. I'll fix it. Most important election in the history of our country. Go and vote.
Meanwhile, NDTV World is on the ground to get you the pulse of what America thinks. We're also covering the US elections extensively. Our reporters are spread out in battleground states of the United States, and we have experts decoding all the key developments on this big global story. In fact, you can log on to ndtv.com/US elections for all the details.
On November 5th, every election season, the US air crackles with anticipation. The nation holds its breath, caught in the whirlwind of democracy. Here's what unfolds in this dramatic saga. Polls close and the hush of uncertainty blankets the country. Voters anxiously await results, their fates hanging in a balance. election workers, fueled by coffee and adrenaline, dive into the monumental task of counting ballots, a process fraught with tension and suspense. As the night deepens, the first waves of results trickle in. States light up on the map, red and blue battles playing out in real time. Twitter explodes, pundits speculate, and hope flickers like a candle in the storm. In battleground states, margins are razor thin, and every vote feels like a heartbeat. Days turn into weeks as the results are certified. Behind the scenes, election officials work tirelessly, verifying votes and ensuring integrity. In contested states, lawyers gear up for potential challenges, ready to navigate the labyrinth of legal disputes. Tension mounts as the clock ticks. Every hour, every minute feels like eternity. Fast forward to December, the appointed electors gather, each one a pivotal piece in the electoral puzzle. With the nation watching, they cast their votes, their decisions shrouded in intrigue. Will they stick to the will of the voters, or will surprises emerge? January 6, 2025 dawns, the day Congress meets to count the electoral votes. The atmosphere is electric, a theatre of democracy in action. Politicians clash, tensions rise, and the stakes are sky high. Will the outcome be a smooth transition of power, or will the ghosts of division haunt the capital? Finally, the moment arrives. January 20th, 2025 is more than a date, it's a spectacle. The air is thick with emotion as the President-elect and Vice President-elect take their oaths, their voices echoing against the backdrop of history. Cheers and jeers blend into a cacophony of hope, fear, and promise as a new chapter in the American story begins. In this dramatic aftermath, the nation grapples with the implications of the election. It is a reminder that democracy is not just a process, but a vibrant, tumultuous journey filled with possibility. The stage is set, and the world watches, captivated by the unfolding drama of the American spirit. An NDTV Bureau Report.
Time now for a very short break. More news and updates on the other side.
Hello and welcome to India Sense, where I speak with global opinion makers.
The United States has made a strategic decision over the last 20 years to move closer to India.
Now, a $7 trillion economy seems a perfectly conceivable number.
If you want to be a national party, it's that you sort of accept the way the world is rather than want to endlessly hark back to how it was.
Modi is promoting the digitization of the economy.
We reached an agreement on patrolling. We have gone back to where the situation was in 2020, and we can say with that the disengagement process with China, you can say, has been completed. The understanding, to my knowledge, is that we will be able to do the patrolling which we were doing in 2020.
I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
It was the grand launch of NDTV World by Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Well, as far as the Maharashtra polls are concerned, the rebel headache is taking over both the Mahayuti alliance as well as the Mahavikas Aghadi. A key BJP leader placed by the party, Gopal Shetty, he is set to withdraw his nomination. Shetty, in fact, has filed his nomination as an independent. Remember, the last day of nominations for withdrawal is today.
सर, दिन भर कल आपको मनाया जा रहा था, सागर बंगले पर भी ले जाया गया। आखिर आपने फैसला क्या लिया?
नहीं, देखिए, आप एक बहुत बड़े न्यूज़ चैनल वाले हो। मेरा पहले दिन से अगर मेरे मुद्दे को आप देखेंगे तो मेरा एकदम लाइन एक ही था पहले दिन से। मैं जो कुछ भी कर रहा हूँ, मैं चुनाव लड़ने के लिए कर नहीं रहा हूँ, मैं चुनाव जीतने के लिए नहीं कर रहा हूँ, मैं पार्टी के लिए कर रहा हूँ, मैं पार्टी के साथ में रहूँगा, मैं दूसरे पार्टी में नहीं जाऊँगा। और एक बार ये भी कहा था कि मुझे पार्टी अभी पार्टी के चुनाव से लड़ने को कहेंगे तो भी मैं नहीं लड़ूंगा। तो इसमें पूरी बात आ गई, मैं मानता हूँ। अगर मैं पार्टी के चुनाव चिन्ह पर भी अगर लड़ने के लिए मन बनाता तो मैं चुनाव लड़ने के लिए सब कर रहा हूँ, ये सिद्ध हो जाएगा। तो मेरा जो इतना लंबा जीवन का जो कैरियर था, पॉलिटिकल कैरियर और सामाजिक कैरियर, वो पूरा ख़त्म हो जाता था कि मैं चुनाव लड़ने के लिए सब कर रहा हूँ। मैंने जो कुछ भी किया, मैंने ये भी बात कहा बार बार कि मैं पार्टी के लिए कर रहा हूँ कि आगे ऐसा ना हो। और मैंने ये भी कहा कि पार्टी के नेताओं से भी मेरा कोई झगड़ा नहीं है, लेकिन पार्टी में कुछ नेता है वो जो इस प्रकार का काम कर रहे हैं।
लेकिन अभी क्या हुआ? आप जो मान गए या नहीं मान गए?
मैं पहले दिन से ही मान काम कर बैठा हूँ।
यानी पर्चा वापस लेंगे?
हाँ, उसमें कोई छुपी हुई बात नहीं ना, उसमें कोई छुपी हुई बात नहीं। पहले दिन से मैं कर रहा हूँ, मैं जो कुछ भी कर रहा हूँ पार्टी हित के लिए कर रहा हूँ। पार्टी में और आगे आने वाले दिनों में ऐसा ना होना चाहिए, इसलिए मैं कर रहा हूँ। और मुझे गर्व इस बात का है कि ऐसा बहुत जगह पे होता है, लेकिन इतने पार्टी के नेता समझाने के लिए जाते हैं, ऐसा नहीं है। मेरे यहाँ पर किरीट सोमैया जी, रघुनाथ कुलकर्णी जी, विनोद तावड़े जी ये तीसरी बार आए हैं। राम नाईक जी देवेंद्र जी के पास जाकर 2 घंटा बैठकर उन्होंने भी बातचीत किया इस उम्र में। और परसों रात को 12:08 पर उन्होंने मुझे फ़ोन पे बात की। तो इन सारे लोगों ने, मैं पार्टी से अलग ना हूँ, मैं तो पार्टी से अलग होने वाला। मैंने ये भी बात बताई थी, पार्टी में से निकालना ये उनका काम है, पार्टी नहीं छोड़ना है मेरा काम है, ये भी मैंने कहा था।
All right, breaking news coming in at this point. The Jammu and Kashmir Governor Manoj Saxena, he is speaking. Let's listen in to what he has to say.
Improved living facilities like roads, public transportation, electricity, drinking water, sanitation, schools, healthcare facilities, healthy and congenial environment, internet connectivity, etc., which enable them to lead a happy life, will also be fulfilled. Connectivity is crucial for the economy. While improvements have been made in the road network, more efforts are required to connect the remaining inaccessible areas. My government will fully leverage funds from centrally sponsored schemes like PMGSY and NABARD funded programs to realize the vision of connectivity, every habitation with a road. Implementation of major ongoing connectivity projects will be fast-tracked by facilitating acquisition of land, forest clearances, and removal of encroachments. Ongoing expressway, national highway, and ring road projects for Jammu and Srinagar cities will be speeded up for their early completion. Work on the upgradation and consolidation of the Jammu-Rajouri-Poonch National Highway will be expedited for its early completion. New national highway projects will be taken up with the central government to improve connectivity to remote and backward pockets to accelerate economic growth. Connectivity of rail to the valley, which will be a reality soon, will be a turning point for economic development and prosperity. Night landing facilities at Jammu and Srinagar airports will further enhance connectivity and boost the tourism sector further. My government will take all necessary measures to ensure that the development dividend of these initiatives reaches the remotest pockets and uplifts their lives and livelihood. My government will pursue implementation of projects for rail connectivity to important unconnected areas, including the border districts of Rajouri and Poonch, with the Government of India. My government is committed to provide 200 units of free electricity to deserving households, for which modalities are being worked out. J&K is endowed with abundance of water resources that are yet to be harnessed fully. My government is committed to harnessing their full potential so that their economy...
All right, the Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha there addressing the newly elected assembly, where he has promised multiple infrastructural projects for the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Meanwhile, BJP in Karnataka is protesting in front of 4 taluk offices in Bengaluru. Prominent leaders like R. Ashok and Ashwath Narayan, they are leading the protest in different places. This is mainly to protest the Karnataka Waqf issue and what the BJP terms as Congress's anti-farmers stand. They're also demanding the resignation of Minorities Minister Zamir Khan. And my colleague Pratibha Raman joins us to get us more on this. Pratibha, just take us through what is happening there at these protests, and just give us the background of what exactly these protests are all about.
Well, it is definitely the Waqf issue that has become a political flashpoint of sorts in Karnataka, mainly with several of the farmer lands that have the Waqf board property that has been mentioned in several of the land records, and that has definitely not gone down well with the farmers. They say that this is a recent development and they have absolutely no idea how this land has suddenly, that has been belonging to the farmers for several number of years, has now suddenly been mentioned as a Waqf property in land records. Even though the Chief Minister has mentioned categorically that several notices that have been given to the farmers will be taken back and that this anti-farmer stand will be rectified, keeping the by-election in mind, the BJP has been relentlessly protesting. The Congress has termed it politicization of the issue. I have with me Mr. Anil Chalagiri, who's one of the most senior BJP karyakartas. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. Why is it that you're protesting even after the Congress has said that they would be withdrawing the notices?
It's very unfortunate that Congress has been saying that, they always talk about constitution and they say BJP doesn't follow, but they do follow. But under the same constitution rules, they have been illegally acquiring the lands of Kannadigas, they have been illegally acquiring the lands of farmers, they have been illegally acquiring the lands of Hindus using the government machinery and through Waqf. This has been going for a very long time. After Congress government came in Karnataka last year, they have declared about 1.5 lakhs of Waqf land in Karnataka itself. So, in terms of supporting the Waqf, they have been doing very much injustice with the farmers of Karnataka. Today, BJP across the state, under the leadership of our State President B.Y. Vijay, we have been doing protest. Our demand has been same. One, it is not just taking those notices back. We want the Chief Minister to remove the Waqf property, which they have mentioned in RTC and Pahani, because it's just a eyewash that taking notices back, that's not going to help. That's not even our demand. Hindus and the people of Karnataka and the farmers' demand has been a single point, is we do not want any Waqf land, but we want what belongs to us. Waqf has been doing injustice with us. Most of the farmers' lands must be given back. There must be absolutely no mention of Waqf in the land records. That must be obliterated from the land records, and that has been the single most point that has been raised by all the farmers as well as the opposition here. All eyes are on the Congress reaction soon after this protest.
All right, Pratibha Raman, thank you very much for getting us all the latest from that protest there happening in Karnataka. Meanwhile, the air pollution situation in both the metros, that is Delhi as well as in Mumbai, it is deteriorating. India's biggest metros are breathing toxic air, and as far as Delhi is concerned, the air quality index is in the severe category. The polluted air in parts of Delhi, the air quality has plummeted in Mumbai as well. The AQI, speaking about Delhi, it dipped to as low as 432 in Anand Vihar in Delhi, and the PM 2.5 concentration was recorded 59 times higher than the WHO limit. Delhi government, it has set to deploy 200 mobile anti-smog guns. This after the Delhi Environment Minister Gopal Rai, he had inaugurated these anti-smog guns, mobile anti-smog guns, a couple of days ago. Meanwhile, in Mumbai, the air quality continues to remain in the poor category. Mumbai suburbs, they were the worst hit by air pollution. My colleagues Anuj Raithe and Shreya Ghosh both join us for this particular story. Shreya, first, to you first. CAQM has already filed multiple complaints against the Punjab and the Haryana government, mostly because of the issue of stubble burning. What are the authorities saying right now, and what are the major reasons for the air pollution, especially in the National Capital Region as for now?
Well, stubble burning's contribution to Delhi's air pollution has been brought down to 15% from 37%. Of course, authorities are taking concrete actions to crack down these stubble burning cases in the neighboring states, in Punjab, Haryana, UP, Madhya Pradesh. But the other factors which play an important role in spiking the pollution levels in the winter season is, of course, the increasing vehicular emission. As you can see, I'm right now in a central road here in Mandi House, and you can see this entire area it looks like a complete gas chamber. We can see reduced visibility, and there's this thick layer of smog surrounding this entire area, and the reason being, of course, the vehicular emission. And although we have seen anti-smog guns being deployed and water being sprinkled to reduce the dust pollution as much as possible, yet we see that these small measures haven't been proven quite successful in combating the annual air pollution crisis. Also, as data shared by the Commission for Air Quality Management, the authorities have in fact cracked down upon several construction and demolition sites that still do not comply with the pollution control norms. Several vehicles, overaged vehicles, have been fined, and also vehicles that do not have the pollution under control certificate. Almost 54,000 of these vehicles have been fined since October 15 till date, and these certain measures have been taken definitely, but the air quality continues to deteriorate, especially in the severely densely populated areas have seen severe air quality, such as Anand Vihar, Ashok Vihar, Mundka. These areas have seen worsening air quality as we approach the winter season. Over to you.
Right, and over to Anuj Raithe now, who's standing in one of the poshest areas in Mumbai, the Malabar Hills. Anuj, just give us a sense of, what are the major reasons for air pollution there, from what we understand as of now? The primary sources of air pollution in Mumbai at this point is construction, apart from vehicular emissions, etc. But what are the authorities saying, and what are the measures that are being taken by the authorities there?
I think we should look at pollution, air pollution specifically, very differently from how we do it in Mumbai to Delhi, especially because it's got a very peculiar style of geography, and that is why, when you go from one region to the other region here in the city, the air quality will change completely given the fact that it's a coastal city. And as you said, I'm standing here in one of the most posh area of the city. This is Malabar Hill, and I'd like my video journalist to show the coastline, and you can see how the visibility is getting getting slightly better than what was the case in the morning. But then considering that this is still peak afternoon hours, it is still expected to be much better than this. It would have been way better if there was no or very little pollution on any other November afternoon. But talking about the reasons about why this is going upwards in the last few years, of course, as he said, construction, vehicular emission is one of the two of the very important reasons. But as far as the authorities' approach is concerned, the BMC has been trying to put in place several guidelines, and they've actually done that. Last year we saw that a series of guidelines were put in place in the month of October, but the implementation of those guidelines is a major concern. Right? There has not been a blanket policy as far as Mumbai pollution is concerned, probably because this entire phenomenon is slightly, is fairly recent here in the city as compared to the other parts of the country, especially in Delhi. Which is why we are seeing that whatever policies have been brought in place are very targeted policies. Be it policies towards construction companies, be it policies towards vehicular emission, etc. But as a whole, there has not been any particular step taken by the BMC. Neither has that happened, nor has there been any large-scale awareness program here in the city about the air pollution levels. It is expected that such programs and policies will come in place, given what we are experiencing this time around. But besides Mumbai, there are different other regions here in the state which are experiencing, higher or worse, relatively worse air quality. Be it the second-tier cities in Dhule, Nanded, Pimpri-Chinchwad. These are the places in northern and the western Maharashtra who do not necessarily have a lot of developmental projects going on there, but the air quality is still worse than what is the case in Mumbai and Pune, and that definitely is a point of concern for all the authorities.
Absolutely. Anuj Raithe and Shreya Ghosh, thank you very much for getting us all the latest in that story. An actor-politician Vijay's party TVK have passed resolutions opposing the NEET BJP's proposal for One Nation, One Election and the Waqf Amendment Bill. TVK meeting was chaired by Vijay himself. TVK also passed a resolution condemning the DMK government, alleging that the law and order situation in Tamil Nadu deteriorated under the government. Vijay, remember, announced his party's ideology and goals at the rally, which included equality, social justice, secularism, promotion of Tamil as the administrative language in courts, and removing the post of the governor.
NEET has to be abolished by the government of India. Caste census has to be taken by the government of India. If the state takes what happened to the caste survey conducted in Bihar, that is of no use. We said that we will fight for all those things. Caste census had not taken place in our whole manifesto. But subsequently, we were speaking about it after Rahul Gandhi started speaking. We also started speaking. We also wanted it.
All right, my colleague Sam Daniel joins us to get us more on this. Sam, we have heard from the DMK, we have heard from the BJP, and both these parties, they are pretty much underplaying what the impact might be by TVK or Vijay himself. What is your assessment?
Well, it's quite uncharted, Osama, because although Tamil Nadu in the past has had stars as chief ministers, including M.G. Ramachandran and Jayalalitha, for quite some time that culture has been declining. Even big stars like Sivaji Ganesan, actor Vijay, Kamal Hassan could not really make a big splash in politics beyond the initial buzz they could make. But what supporters of actor Vijay say is that in the case of the other actors, they came to politics at the retirement age in their film career. Unlike Vijay, who was making his political plunge at the peak of his career, and that, they say, will make a huge difference. Also, this is coming at a time when the AIADMK is yet to recover after the death of Jayalalitha. The party has been witnessing a series of electoral defeats after Edappadi Palaniswamy, and before that they had a joint leadership with O. Pannirselvam. In this context, they hope that Vijay could be striking a chord with the bulk of the AIADMK voters who could be supporting him. But in a sense, these are all uncharted, and we'll have to wait for the elections to see how the Tamil Nadu voters would decide. But the larger political picture in Tamil Nadu is that a majority of voters are all already politically aligned with the two Dravidian majors, the ruling DMK and the AIADMK. And for Vijay to be able to be successful to capture power, he would have to really make deep inroads into both these political parties. And that's his big challenge, of which he is supremely confident. But we'll have to wait and see whether that will work. But from what it appears from his yesterday's executive meeting, Vijay is trying to keep that momentum going, the one he built after the first conference at Viluppuram last Sunday, in which he tacitly attacked the BJP and openly the DMK. And now, in his Sunday's resolution statement, he has openly hit out both on the BJP at the centre on several issues and the ruling DMK at the state level. We'll have to see what kind of a momentum he would continue to build and what kind of a splash he would make in a bid to change the political landscape in Tamil Nadu, as his supporters claim. Osama.
Well, will the TVK and the actor turned politician Vijay make any dent there as far as the 2026 assembly elections is concerned in Tamil Nadu? We'll have to wait and watch. Sam Daniel, thank you very much for getting us the latest. And the NDTV World is covering the US elections extensively. Our reporters, they are spread out in battleground states of the United States, and we have experts decoding all the key developments on this big global story. You can in fact log on to ndtv.com/US elections for all the details. Meanwhile, it's time for a break.
तालियों के साथ हम स्वागत करेंगे आदरणीय मोदी जी का।
छत्रपति शिवाजी महाराज की।
घोषणा आणि जनतेचे पैसे लुटणं.
कट कमिशन आणि करप्शनला आमच्याकडे थारा नाही. त्यांचा परिवारवाद आमचा महाराष्ट्रवाद.
महाराष्ट्रामध्ये 1,75,000 जागा रिक्त आहेत. मग का भरत नाही? राज्याची जनतेच्या घमाच्या पैशाची तिजोरी लुटण्यासाठी हे सरकार आहे.
पूर्वीच्या सरकारच्या काळामध्ये निधी देताना त्यांना असं वाटायचं की त्यांच्याच खिशातले पैसे चालले. शेतकऱ्यांना मोफत वीज देण्याचं काम आपल्या सरकारने सुरू केलं.
NDTV proudly presents NDTV World Summit 2024, the India Century. I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's inaugural session at the NDTV Summit outlined his vision for the India Century, driven by aspirational India.
हमारा प्रयास होगा भारत की सेंचुरी सिर्फ भारत की नहीं बल्कि पूरी मानवता की जीत की सेंचुरी बने.
The summit brought together prominent global leaders, highlighting India's pivotal role on the world stage.
Not just Indians trusting India's leadership, but the global South especially trusting India's leadership.
Permanent seat on the UN Security Council is something that should be India's right.
Canada is concerned, I think there are some very specific issues. I think a lot of people know that.
AI is going to be one of the most important, drivers.
It's a very exciting time for India, Indian cinema as well at a global level.
NDTV World Summit was more than just a conversation. It was a confluence of ideas poised to shape our global future.
As the world watches with bated breath, the contest that will impact the world.
Exclusive insights, expert analysis, and ground zero updates as history unfolds.
We are not a vessel for the schemes of wannabe dictator.
I'm the opposite of a Nazi.
The election that will have worldwide ramifications.
Immigration is far more than just a political talking point.
NDTV World brings you the best worldly insight from the US and across the world.
This is not just an election, it's a moment that will define a nation and the world, and we will be present.
Your view to the world. NDTV World.
New day, new show, a new experience.
Start your day with the news, not views.
We bring you stories that matter
and impact your life.
News that informs and keeps you ahead. From Maximum City, Mumbai,
to the seat of power, Delhi,
NDTV brings you the best breakfast show. Breakfast news on NDTV, 8 a.m. every day.
Ruckus in the assembly. There's chaos that erupted in Jammu and Kashmir's first assembly session. The ruckus over PDP MLA's Article 370 resolution. Over 20 people have died after a bus has fallen into a gorge in Uttarakhand. Over 20 people have died. Many have been injured. The fear is that this death toll could go up. Karnataka Waqf land row, and it's a BJP statewide protest in the farmland labelled as Waqf property by officials. It's the Chief Minister who's gone on to say that he's instructed the officials to withdraw. In Maharashtra, it's the last day for withdrawing nominations and last-minute push by the Mahayuti and the Mahavikas Aghadi to solve rebel issues. And disruptions at the Indian Consular camp after Khalistani elements attack a temple in Canada. India calls these disruptions deeply disappointing. And just a day to go for the final showdown when it comes to Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. Who is going to emerge as the winner? Well, it's a very tough and a very close contest at that. But the battle is on in the key swing states. Very good afternoon. You're watching NDTV 24/7. Let's just cut across to Prime Minister Modi, who is in Jharkhand addressing a rally just ahead of the polls that will take place later this month in Jharkhand.
भाजपा झारखंड की सुविधा, सुरक्षा, स्थिरता और समृद्धि की गारंटी के साथ चुनावी मैदान में उतरी है। मैं झारखंड भाजपा को बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं कि कल झारखंड बीजेपी ने बहुत ही शानदार संकल्प पत्र जारी किया है। ये संकल्प पत्र रोटी, बेटी और माटी के सम्मान, सुरक्षा और समृद्धि के लिए समर्पित है। माताओं, बहनों, बेटियों के लिए, उनके कल्याण के लिए, उनके हकों के लिए इसमें अनेक संकल्प लिए गए हैं। गोगो मोदी दीदी योजना, गोगो दीदी योजना, ये हर महीने माताओं बहनों को 2100 रुपये मिलेंगे। मेरी गरीब परिवार की माताओं बहनों को पहले हमने उज्ज्वला योजना के तहत मुफ्त गैस कनेक्शन दिए। अब झारखंड में बनने जा रही भाजपा एनडीए सरकार 500 रुपये में सिलेंडर देगी। अगले साल दीपावली और रक्षाबंधन पर झारखंड की बहनों को 2 मुफ्त सिलेंडर भी मिलने वाले हैं। भाजपा ने ओडिशा की, छत्तीसगढ़ की, मध्य प्रदेश की बहनों को ये घोषणा की और लागू भी कर दिया। उनको पहुंचा भी दिया। इसलिए एक तरफ भाजपा का गारंटी पूरा करने का ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड, वहीं दूसरी तरफ जेएमएम, कांग्रेस, आरजेडी के झूठे वायदे। इन्होंने 5 साल तक माताओं बहनों के लिए कुछ नहीं किया। अब जब भाजपा की योजनाएं सामने आई है, तब उन्होंने आनन फानन में महिलाओं की आंख में धूल झोंकने के लिए नकल करके नई नई घोषणाएं की है। अरे जो लोग शायद नकल तो कर सकते हैं, लेकिन भाजपा के पास जो नेक है, नियत है, वो नेक नियत कहां से लाओगे? और इनकी योजनाएं कभी अब करेंगे, तब करेंगे, दिसंबर टिकना फैला। अरे तुम रहने ही वाले नहीं हो भाई, ये चुनाव में विदाई पक्की है। साथियों, जेएमएम कांग्रेस वालों ने आपको गरीबों के घर के नाम पर भी धोखा ही दिया है। केंद्र की हमारी सरकार ने प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना के तहत झारखंड में 16 लाख गरीबों के घर बनाए। 16 लाख कितने? 16 लाख गरीबों के घर कितने? यह आंकड़ा बहुत बड़ा होता है भाई। और ये घर किसको मिले? एससी, एसटी, ओबीसी, जिनके पास पक्का घर नहीं था, ऐसे मेरे एससी, एसटी, ओबीसी परिवारों को मैंने काम किया है। करीब 1,15,000 घर तो यहां ये हमारे गढ़वा जिले के गरीब परिवारों को मिले हैं। अब आप कह रहे थे कि यहां पहले कोई प्रधानमंत्री नहीं आया। ये मोदी पहला प्रधानमंत्री है जो यहां आया। जो बड़े बड़े अच्छे अच्छे काम होते हैं ना, वो मेरे नसीब में ही लिखे हुए हैं। अरे गढ़वाल के लोगों का प्यार पाना, आशीर्वाद पाने के लिए भी तो नसीब चाहिए। ये नसीब मोदी को मिला है, इसलिए आपके आशीर्वाद पाने के लिए आपके पास आ गया। लेकिन जेएमएम कांग्रेस से आप पूछिए कि अबुआ आवास योजना का क्या हुआ भाई?
Breaking news coming in, and this is in regard to the face-off that's taken place over the Waqf JPC. The opposition MPs have written to the Lok Sabha Speaker, and this face-off in regard to the Waqf JPC. The opposition has gone on to say that they want to disassociate from JPC, and the opposition has gone on to say that these decisions were taken without consultations. And to get more on this, we have Aishwarya joining us. Aishwarya, take us through what the opposition is really saying and this face-off that's taking place in regard to the Waqf JPC.
Well, that's for the very first time when the opposition MPs have jointly written to the Lok Sabha Speaker in regards to the entire process of having amendments in the Waqf Amendment Bill. the opposition MPs categorically had written to the Lok Sabha Speaker stating that as they are aware of the JPC constituted by the Waqf, by you for the Waqf Bill 2024, there are deep concerns regarding that, and it has been stated that there should be a chairman of the office which should be directed to have a formal consultation with the members. Otherwise, they humbly submit that they want to force to disassociate with the JPC funds for all, and we have been stonewalled. There were different opinions that had been given in these long meetings by the opposition MPs, which had not been taken. It has been alleged by the opposition MPs that there are some remarks that had already not taken into account, and JPC chairperson had deliberately taken decision to have these concerned amendments and concerned suggestions into place. The opposition MPs also went on to say in a letter cited to Speaker that Chairperson JPC is taking decisions vehemently without discussion with the committee members, issuing dates of meetings and calling for consultations as well. The opposition MPs state that this is a forceful way to migrate and pass the Waqf Amendment Bill. Opposition leaders stated that if sufficient time will not be given to them, then the MPs will disassociate themselves from the JPC. That's a big announcement, a kind of announcement that had been made by the opposition MPs, was a part of the JPC for the Waqf Amendment Bill and had been written to Lok Sabha Speaker. Whether there would be some reply that will be from the Lok Sabha Speaker or not, that remains to be seen.
Right, Aishwarya, thank you so much for joining us with all those details. And staying with the Waqf news, it is the BJP in Karnataka that's protesting. This is with the protests that are taking place in different places in Karnataka. This is mainly to protest the Karnataka Waqf issue and what the BJP has termed as Congress's anti-farmer stand. They are also demanding the resignation of Minorities Minister Zamir Khan. Remember, BJP has been alleging that Karnataka government is evicting farmers to give the land to Waqf board. Now, Karnataka's Chief Minister has asked officials to withdraw notices served to the farmers concerning the Waqf land as the BJP escalates the issue with that state-wide protest. We have Pratibha joining us. Pratibha, this is after the Chief Minister has issued a very strict directive to officials to immediately retract all notices sent to farmers concerning Waqf land issues. But it is Zamir Ahmed Khan who slammed the opposition and has gone on to say that all this has been projected very differently from what the true picture is.
Well, even though the order has been issued by the Chief Minister in terms of withdrawal of all the notices that have been issued to the farmers, what is being suggested by the BJP is that the record of rights, tenancy and crops, which is the RTC, and that is what holds land records, and that is the place where the Waqf board's name has been mentioned. That must be removed from that list. And that is the single most important demand made by the BJP. I'm here at the Kengeri Taluk office in Bengaluru, and this is the road that actually connects Bengaluru to Mysuru as well. And just recently, the Channapatna, which is on the same route, is also an area where the farmers have been talking about how their lands have been taken over by the Waqf board. And that is exactly the place where the by-election is also happening. And keeping that election, the three constituencies here in Karnataka where the by-election is supposed to happen, this Waqf issue has become a political flashpoint of sorts. What you see behind me is the BJP protest where senior BJP MLA Mr. Ashwath Narayan as well as Mr. Gopalaya have been heading this protest. All eyes are on the Congress government's reaction to this entire protest.
Thank you so much, Pratibha, for getting us all the details and, of course, protests that are being held by the BJP in various parts of Karnataka. Moving on now to more news, and this is breaking news coming in. And 2 weeks before Maharashtra goes to polls, the Election Commission has ordered the transfer of Maharashtra's DGP, Rashmi Shukla. The opposition led by the Congress has alleged that the senior IPS officer was biased towards the ruling Mahayuti alliance and fair polls won't be possible if she was the top post. Now we have Radhika joining us to get us more on this. Radhika, take us through what has really happened and why has this decision been taken just 2 weeks before the state goes to polls?
That's right, a very significant development ahead of Maharashtra Assembly polls. State DGP Rashmi Shukla has been transferred by the Election Commission. This after multiple complaints had gone to Election Commission as far as Rashmi Shukla is concerned by the opposition leaders. In fact, MVA had written multiple complaints and via oral communication as well as through press conferences, Congress party as well as UBT Sena had time and again stated that Rashmi Shukla was working against the opposition. She was allegedly involved in phone tapping of phones of several of the top opposition leaders, and that she had in fact given instructions. These are the allegations that she had given instruction to several of top cops in Maharashtra to frame several of the opposition leaders to file false cases against him. So several materials in this regard, including evidence in this regard, had been presented by the opposition before the Election Commission. Time and again, especially over the last few weeks, Sanjay Raut as well as Nana Patole had come out requesting the Election Commission to transfer Rashmi Shukla as she had worked against the interest of the opposition, as she had worked in an unbiased, a biased environment. So therefore, for free and fair elections to be conducted, Rashmi Shukla must be transferred is the request that had gone with multiple complaints and evidence with regard to that as well. Of course, we know for a fact that Rashmi Shukla had worked closely with Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis, and in 2019 when MVA was to come into power, she was embroiled in this controversy involving phone tapping. An FIR was registered against her, but after Mahayuti came to power, she was once again given another top post. Earlier she was the Commissioner of Police in Pune, after which in Jan 2024, after MVA Mahayuti came to power, she was given the top post, which is DG of Maharashtra. Now of course complaints going in saying that she worked against and she's continuing to work against the opposition, which is why she must be transferred so that the elections are fair and impartial. So now, yes, this decision being taken by the Election Commission, and Rashmi Shukla has now been transferred as the DG of Maharashtra.
Right, with those claims that the MVA has made that Shukla had got phones tapped. Thank you so much, Radhika, for joining us with those details. And staying with news from Maharashtra, as Maratha quota activist Manoj Patil, who's made a U-turn after announcing that he would be back. He would back 10 to 15 candidates in the elections that will be taking place later this month. He announced that he would not be participating in the polls. So this is, of course, the last day of withdrawal of nominations in Maharashtra, and both Mahayuti and MVA camps are negotiating to convince the rebel candidates to withdraw from the fray. Now, sources in both camps say that many dissenters have decided to withdraw, though many are still digging in, and discussions could continue till the last minute. There are more than 50 rebels in both alliances. In Mahayuti, top netas including Devendra Fadnavis and Eknath Shinde have held several meetings with rebels, and the MVA leaders have also been holding discussions and have ruled out the possibility of any friendly fights. And switching tracks now to Jammu and Kashmir, there was ruckus in the newly elected Jammu and Kashmir Assembly as it held its first sitting in 6 years after People's Democratic Party lawmaker tabled an impromptu resolution against the scrapping of Article 370 that took place in August of 2019. The BJP lawmakers, walked out. They opposed the resolution over, as the Speaker, Rahim Rathir of the ruling National Conference, said that he was not admitted to any resolution as yet. The BJP-led centre revoked Article 370 5 years ago, and in a contentious move marked by furious protests, this removed the special status and split the former state into two union territories. So this is a ruckus that you can see, the chaos that erupted in the first day of the session in Jammu and Kashmir's assembly session, and there you can see a lot of ruckus that erupted, and it was the opposition there, of course, but also from what we're hearing is that the LG also addressed the House, and the LG has gone on to talk about how the focus is going to be on tourism and how to improve the prospects when it comes to tourism. Let's just listen in to some of the political reactions, including the Chief Minister.
ये असेंबली जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों के जज्बात को रिफ्लेक्ट करती है। हकीकत यह है कि जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों ने 5 अगस्त 2019 के फैसले पे अपना मोहर नहीं लगाया है। अब हाउस इसको किस तरह रिफ्लेक्ट करेगी, इस पर किस तरह बातचीत होगी, इसको किस तरह रिकॉर्ड पे लाया जाएगा, ये एक सिंगल ऑनरेबल मेंबर तय नहीं करेगा। और जो रेजोल्यूशन आज लाया गया है उसकी कोई अहमियत नहीं है। अगर मकसद होता तो शायद ये लोग हमारे से मशवरा करके तय करते कि हाउस की तरफ से क्या बात आनी चाहिए।
My government will make all efforts for restoration of full statehood and constitutional guarantees available to the state. It would be befitting the reciprocation of the faith reposed by the people of Jammu and Kashmir in our democratic institutions. In the meantime, I urge all stakeholders to work together as one team and extend full support to my government in fulfilling the hopes and aspirations of the people. My government is fully committed to implementing the promises made to the people for further political empowerment and for creating an enabling environment for employment, sustainable development, social inclusiveness, and the expansion of the economy for enhancing the overall quality of life.
And of course, the restoration of Article 370 was amongst the key poll planks in last month's election, the first in Jammu and Kashmir in a decade, since the PDP-BJP government broke down and the president's rule was imposed. So the rolling back of this move has been amongst the major key poll planks in the run-up to the last month's elections amid the recent terror attacks. Also, this comes right on the heels of the terror attack that took place in Srinagar yesterday, right in the center of a market, in which, of course, when we talk about, it is the Chief Minister who also has gone on to react as far as, this assembly session is concerned. He says this assembly session is representing the emotions of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. And we have Nazir with us. Nazir, what really, is going to come out of this assembly session? Take us through what all is on the agenda. And of course, the restoration of statehood has been something which has been quite a poll promise, so to speak.
Well, in his address, Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor also reiterated about the restoration of the statehood and talked about it is the resolution passed by the cabinet, Umar Abdullah cabinet, unanimously is the will of the people and that statehood should be restored. And it is what the Lieutenant Governor Manoj said in his first address to the J&K legislature. He also talked about a long political uncertainty before election during the president's rule, very unusual. He talked about that. He talked about the situation, improvement of the situation. He talked about development. He talked about all those things which normally every government, when it takes over, is expected to say. So when government, Lieutenant Governor or Governor is to be reflecting the policy of the elected government. Having said that, before the Lieutenant Governor's address, there was a lot of pandemonium, rucks in the assembly as impromptu resolution or the paper passed, because resolution we can say which is admitted, or when there's a day of resolution, PDP MLA Wahid Rahman Para actually impromptu write a paper which he called a resolution saying he opposes the abrogation of Article 370. That led to a massive chaos and confusion in the assembly, and some members rushed to the well of the house. BJP members just stood up from their chairs and just opposed it and said, how can he be allowed? Finally, leader of the house and Chief Minister Umar Abdullah stood up and said, look, they knew something is happening, but they never believed that something will be done like this when members have risen and talked about, governors, the election of the speaker. And at the same time, you see a member standing up and talking about resolution, which the government otherwise is bringing a resolution for opposing abrogation of Article 370. This is something which the government national conference has promised. Chief Minister Umar Abdullah himself has said it, and his party has reiterated that they are going to bring a resolution. But Umar Abdullah is saying, look, there would be a day of resolution, private members' resolution, anybody is free, but we could see the motive behind why this resolution was brought. When people were talking, members were talking about, this election of the speaker, and then there would be governor's address. Tomorrow would be the obituary reference of those members who have died before the two sessions. And this session is taking place after a gap of near 7 years. Last assembly session in Jammu and Kashmir had happened in January 2018, and then there was collapse of BJP-PDP government, then a long governor's rule, and the first assembly session in the UT, and first assembly session after a gap of near 7 years started with pandemonium rocks, but then governor's address clearly talked about restoration of the statehood and the political uncertainty that was followed by the election, massive participatory election in Jammu and Kashmir.
Right. Thank you so much, Nazir, for giving us all those details. We will keep coming back to you as the assembly session continues over the next couple of days. Now, over 20 people have died and many others have been injured after a bus met with an accident in the Almora district of Uttarakhand. The bus, with at least 45 passengers on board, went out of control in Marchula this morning and fell into a deep gorge while travelling from Garhwal to Kumaon. And to get more on this, we have Kishore joining us. Kishore, the fear is that this death toll could go up, considering there were 45 passengers on board that bus. The Chief Minister has expressed grief at the loss of the lives in the incident and has also instructed for those who need to be airlifted, those who have been injured seriously, for the required treatment to be given to those injured.
बिल्कुल सुबह 8:30 बजे ये हादसा हुआ था, जिसमें अभी तक जो जानकारी मिल रही है 20 से ज़्यादा लोगों की मौत की सूचना आ रही है। इसके अलावा जो घायल है उनको रामनगर का जो सबसे नज़दीक अस्पताल है वहाँ पर उनका इलाज किया जा रहा है। ये अल्मोड़ा के मरचुला के एक कूपी गांव है, वहाँ पर ये हादसा हुआ है। लगभग जब हादसा हुआ था उसके बाद जो तमाम ग्रामीण थे उन्होंने पुलिस को सूचना दी। इसके अलावा वो खुद रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन में लगे। उनका पहला यही था कि जो लोग घायल हैं उनकी किसी हालत में भी तरह से जान बचाई जा सके। इसके अलावा वहाँ रेस्क्यू टीमें पहुँच गई थी, उन्होंने रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन शुरू किया। हॉस्पिटल जाते हुए कुछ लोगों की डेथ हुई है। इसके अलावा जो 4 लोग गंभीर रूप से घायल थे, जिनकी हालत काफ़ी क्रिटिकल थी, उनको रामनगर से एयरलिफ्ट कर ऋषिकेश के जो एम्स है वहाँ पर लाया गया। इसके अलावा मुख्यमंत्री पुष्कर सिंह धामी ने जो गंभीर रूप से घायल है उनको 1-1 लाख रुपए देने की घोषणा की है। इसके अलावा जिनकी डेथ हुई उनके परिजनों को 4-4 लाख रुपए देने की घोषणा की है। इसके अलावा एक और मुख्यमंत्री ने मजिस्ट्रेट जांच के आदेश दिए। जो कुमाऊं के कमिश्नर हैं उनको मजिस्ट्रेट जांच के आदेश दिए हैं कि वो इस पूरे हादसे की जाँच करेंगे और आरटीओ जो इन्फोर्समेंट है उनको निलंबित कर दिया गया है। कुल मिलाकर अभी सरकार ने एक्शन लिया, लेकिन सबसे पहले जो गंभीर रूप से घायल है उनका इलाज किया जा रहा है। लेकिन ये हादसा काफ़ी भीषण था, जिसमें लगभग 20 के करीब लोगों की मौत की सूचना है। जी,
Very tragic incident that is being reported. Of course, Kishore, we will keep coming back to you to get more updates on this tragedy that's unfolded in Uttarakhand early this morning. Like Kishore was mentioning, the bus with at least 45 passengers on board went out of control, and that has resulted in over 20 lives that have been lost. Getting you some more news, and this is after reports of multiple incidents of attacks in Canada and videos purportedly showing Khalistani elements have emerged. Now, the Indian High Commission in Canada has now reacted and blamed anti-India elements for the violence outside the consular camp, co-organized with the Hindu Sabha Mandir in Brampton. This is in Canada. In a statement that the Indian High Commission has said, it's deeply disheartening to see such disruptions being allowed for routine consular work being organized by our consulates with the fullest cooperation of local co-organizers. While the Indian High Commission's latest statement makes no explicit reference to any Khalistani elements, the mayor of Brampton, Patrick Brown, has called for punishment to the greatest extent of law for those held accountable for the violence. And his Canadian MP who posted that video of the Khalistani attack, sharing that video, Canadian MP of Indian origin Chandra Arya has gone on to say that a red line has been crossed by Canadian Khalistani extremists. The attack by Khalistanis in Brampton shows how deep and brazen has Khalistani violence and the extremism become in Canada. And this, of course, comes at a time when the High Commission has also gone on to say that there were other such attacks that were planned, including in Vancouver, and efforts were made in order to disrupt those attacks, similar to what unfolded outside that temple in Brampton.
देखो जो पिछले दिनों खबरें आ रही कनाडा में जो हालात बने हुए हैं ये एक किसी मजहब की बात नहीं है, हिंदू हो सिख हो सबके लिए ये ट्रूडो साहब हैं जो प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब हैं, इस तरीके से उन्होंने डिवाइड कर दिया है। वहाँ पे जो खालिस्तानी एलिमेंट हैं उनको 2 दिनों से मंदिरों के सामने जो हमारे पूजा की जगह है, जो पिछले दिनों त्योहार थे हमारे, चाहे दिवाली थी और थी, तो उसके लिए वहाँ पे लोग इकट्ठे हो रहे थे। तो खास तौर पे हर जगह इस आदमी ने कि हिंदुस्तान के लोग और पंजाब के खास तौर पे लोग वो पीसफुली वहाँ पे रह ना सकें, यहाँ से उनके बच्चे ना जा सकें, फैमिलीज ना जा सकें, उसे रोकने के लिए ये खास तौर पे डिस्टर्ब करने के लिए ये कुछ खालिस्तानी जो किसी के नहीं है, ना हिंदुओं के ना सिखों के, लेकिन आप देखिए किस तरीके से उनकी पुलिस बिल्कुल ट्रूडो साहब की जो पुलिस है वो खालिस्तानियों की पक्ष में खड़ी दिख रही है।
Right, to get more on this, we have my colleague Ghazali joining us. Ghazali, after reports of multiple incidents of attacks in Canada, some that were disrupted by the authorities, and these videos are purportedly showing the Khalistani elements that have emerged. The Indian High Commission, of course, has reacted, blaming these are the anti-Indian elements for the violence that's taken place. Take us through where all were these attacks planned for?
See, during the month of October and November, basically in the month of November, the pension holders across the country in India and those Indians who avail the pension services and are settled abroad have to submit a certificate in the bank, which is called the life certificate. So to ensure that the NRIs in other countries, NRIs staying in different countries also have to submit this document called life certificate. Now, in Canada and in many other countries, the embassies organize these camps where the senior citizens availing pension services can come, fill in their life certificates as provided by the Indian High Commissions there in the camps, and on mass scale people or NRIs fill that form and that entire process is done. Considering the same, a similar camp was to be organized there in Canada for the Indians staying in Canada, and there was always this fear that perhaps when this consular services camp will be organized, the officials of Indian diplomatic community who are organizing this will face a backlash from the Khalistanis, considering the fact that how India-Canada relations have taken a hit in the last 1 month or so. And exactly as predicted, the Khalistani supporters gathered outside a temple, protested there, then got into a scuffle and started attacking the devotees there inside the temple or those who were still trying to flee from this spot. So this happened at one particular temple. These camps are being organized not only in temple but gurdwaras as well, and now the Indian High Commission there has expressed its disappointment that on the call or on the demand of the Indians staying there of the Indian community, these camps are organized, and now it has met with violence. So in future, because in the ongoing month now, multiple such camps had to be organized, and perhaps the Indian High Commission has taken a consideration of the view that under these security situations they can't hold these camps. But the larger issue is that it's about the safety of Indians in Canada. This is something that the External Affairs Ministry in their last response, when we asked them about the future of Indo-Canada relations, considering the allegations which are being thrown from Canadian authorities towards Indian politicians, Indian officials, the MEA had strongly objected to these comments, but it also assured that India is primarily more concerned about the safety of Indian citizens. And now the developments in the last 24 hours has certainly shown that there are divisive forces in Canada which is trying to bring communities, Indian communities against each other, and now there are protests happening outside gurdwaras as well at certain locations in Canada. So a certainly very charged and tense atmosphere, and it is up to the Canadian authorities to take stock of the situation, take action against those who are the lawbreakers and are trying to disturb the situation in Canada.
Right, of course, Ghazali, thank you so much. And of course, the mayor there saying that places of worship should be safe. They should be safe spaces that are free of violence and intimidation. With that, we're slipping in a very short break. Back with a whole lot more. Just stay with us.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 50 Pro. World's first AI-powered pro-grade camera.
have been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always buzz. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best journalism and storytelling on your smartphone or tablet. The NDTV app. News that matters to you.
Hello and welcome to India Sense, where I speak with global opinion makers.
The United States has made a strategic decision over the last 20 years to move closer to India.
Our $7 trillion economy seems a perfectly conceivable number.
If you want to be a national party, it's that you sort of accept the way the world is rather than want to endlessly hark back to how it was.
Modi is promoting the digitization of the economy, which is accelerating growth in the country.
Welcome back. Let's get you the very latest. It's a day to go before the elections in the United States, and it's a very close contest as Donald Trump's campaign works to clear up his remarks about shooting the media. Kamala Harris also went ahead and dodged questions about her vote on a California crime measure. But in the last dash to the election finish line on Tuesday, Kamala Harris's team is cautiously optimistic about her chance of victory in what continues to be an extremely tight race. The big question being asked is why, which way is this election really going to go, how tough is the contest and how high are the stakes. The tightly contested landscape means that the race remains highly uncertain as the campaign enters its final hours. Well, it is Kamala Harris who's gone on to say that they have momentum. She's also, slammed Donald Trump, while Donald Trump says, he is of course talking about that he shouldn't have left the White House in the first place, is what he was heard saying. Let's listen.
So Michigan, 2 days to go. You ready? In one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime, and we have momentum. It is on our side. Can you feel it? And we have the momentum because our campaign is tapping into the ambitions, the aspirations, and the dreams of the American people. Because we are optimistic and excited about what we can do together.
You are great sports fans, and I hope you're having a fantastic time. We're 2 days away from the most important election in the history of our country. We've got to save our country, and it needs saving. It's in very bad shape. The worst economic numbers in generations were just announced 2 days ago. We're losing jobs, we're losing everything, including viability. We're going to end up in a depression based on what's been happening. We've never seen anything like it, at least for the last 40 years. We have to straighten out our country. We have to close our borders. We have to lower our taxes. We have to get rid of inflation, and we're going to do it. Just remember, Kamala and her friends broke it. I'll fix it. Most important election in the history of our country. Go and vote.
And Kamala Harris is expected to host a concert today. Who's going to show up at that concert is the big question. Also, a rally in the run-up to the elections that will start tomorrow evening here in, as far as Indian time is concerned, and of course, early morning in the United States on Tuesday. With that, we're slipping into a very short break. Back with a whole lot more. Stay with us. And before that break, let's just also get you the very latest as far as the voters are concerned. What's really the key issues when it comes to these elections, and how is it different from the elections that took place 4 years ago? My colleague Gauri Dwivedi breaks it down for us.
This is a very special conversation on NDTV with Dr. Salman Akhtar, who's a world-renowned psychiatrist, author of 113 books, someone who has seen US politics for over 50 years, and someone who also writes on a variety of issues. Thank you so much, Dr. Akhtar, for speaking to NDTV. I'm going to come to your book that you've written in just a bit, but let me start by asking you that we're in Pennsylvania, a state that is considered to be pretty much decisive when it comes to the US election results. How do you view the election right now, the issues on which the Indian Americans are set to vote, and most importantly, the American politics right now as it stands?
Let me answer your comment or respond to it in reverse order. One, about the current American politics. I've been in this country now 51 years, and I've never seen and never experienced this country as so divided socially, politically, and such. The country is actually really, really divided, and very strongly in terms of ideology, in terms of feelings, in terms of sense of identity, belonging, philosophy of life, attitude towards minorities, etc., etc. So it's a very strongly emotional election. All elections are emotional. All elections are fundamentally divisive because they say elect A or elect B.
Right.
But those divisions are ideational. Now the divisions are powerfully emotional and almost vitriolic and potentially violent. So it's a very, very powerful and significant moment in American politics.
There hasn't been any violence till now, though there are expectations that the result may coincide with some acts of it. I will come to that in a bit. But first, in terms of the Indian American community, you are one of the strongest members of that, very illustrious member of the community. How has it shaped up in the last couple of years? They've grown significantly. They've doubled in the last 10 odd years. They are powerful in all matrix, economically, socially. Politically, are they getting the voice that they've been wanting to for some time? Are they now part of the political representation that the Indian American community has been seeking for some time?
I think the answer is unfortunately a little complex. One is that when we say Indian American community, we are being a little wishful in viewing that community as a homogeneous. The fact is, even within Indian American community, there are cracks. Cracks, for instance, between Sikhs and non-Sikhs.
Right.
There have been incidences that we don't necessarily need to get into in Canada, in the United States, and in the history in the last 20, 30, 40 years, which have caused a very subtle but painful crack between Sikhs and Hindus. Of course, the Muslims and Hindus from old time, their partition, etc. So there are all kind of cracks in there. Plus, also, whether even within the Hindu community, a relatively moderate, secular, liberal, left-leaning Hindu community versus a Hindutva community. So that what we call Indian community has Sikh community, Muslims who are Indian really from the heart, Muslims who may have other kinds of empathies and sympathies.
Okay.
And then Sikhs who are in some ways broken-hearted and suspect and also angry and resigned. So that we have a collage and a mosaic of Indian community.
Yes.
On one hand, is quite splintered. On the other hand, because the immigration in this country was tilted towards the educated and the potentially affluent or the affluent to be, therefore, one thing that binds them together is money. Most Indian people are more affluent than other ethnic groups, and a quality that they share with the Chinese, I think, and with the Jews of hard work, industry, value of education, family cohesion. In that way, Indian community can be seen as one. In some ways not as one, in some ways as one. In the latter issue, I think unfortunately or understandably, the interest that drives this whole country anyway, and I think this side of the Indian interest is money and taxes and revenues and such. And in that way, they might lean one way where they feel that is going to be more advantageous financially for them.
Okay. That's an important insight you gave. You're right about the fact that the Indian American community is affluent. The median household income is about $150,000, which is more than double the average national income. But there are 2-3 aspects of what you said which I want to delve into further. Of course, Indian American community is not a monolith group. There are several aspects to it. And let's talk about those, whether the impact of what's happening in the West Asia crisis has any bearing on how Indian Muslims, who are of course now Indian Americans voting in this, is that an impact you see? Right now in this election, there's a very large prominent grouping in Michigan of Muslim voters. A lot of them are from India. Do you see that having some sort of an impact?
I think so. I think the Muslims in this country, including Indian Muslims, Pakistani Muslims also, but including Indian Muslims, I think are very wary of both parties. But because of the relatively one-sided support of United States in the Middle East conflict. But I think that they are somewhat more wary of the Republicans and more wary of their candidate, because they feel, and I think rightly so, that if the Republicans come in power, especially their candidate, then they might give almost carte blanche to certain powers in Middle East, which would be disadvantageous and hurtful and disenfranchising for the Muslims. So in that way, in their larger solidarity with Muslims, I think the Muslim vote will paradoxically go to the Democrats, although they are not happy with them either.
Okay. What about the factor when it comes to the Pannun issue? It's an issue that hasn't had an impact in terms of the India-US relationship, as it shouldn't, because it's a specific case. But from a voter point of view, from the Sikh community point of view, help us understand that is there some bearing on the Sikh voting patterns here in the United States?
I don't know. The fact is, I don't know. But what I do know is that there is a quiet, painful and subterranean schism that has evolved. And it is since 1984, or when, not 84, 84, right? Yeah, so it has since then lasted. It gets healed over and sealed over, more sealed over than healed over. I mean, obviously the fact that Mr. Manmohan Singh became the Prime Minister of India, etc., had kind of both tokenism as well as actual, both healing effects, just like Mr. Obama's election in this country. But I think there is a crack. And I don't think that affects the voting pattern. It may not in this country, I don't think so, because that has less pertinence. I mean, the recent scandals are too recent and too ill understood, actually, frankly. Too ill understood, too vague, and not their knowledge and their influence is not that pervasive. So I don't think that that has any effect.
The other aspect I wanted to ask you about is the wooing of the Hindu Americans here, particularly by the Republican Party. Donald Trump has mentioned that on multiple occasions. How do you see that having a bearing, again, on voting preferences, given the fact that the Indian community here has predominantly been a Democrat stronghold? Yes. Studies seem to indicate that that is now changing. Even if it may not be a very significant trend, the fact that it is changing and the backdrop that Donald Trump is wooing this affluent class of voters who are in a position to become important donors and so on and so forth, how do you see that?
See, one of the common ploys, not only with Mr. Trump, but with all politicians, including politicians in our own country, is to make